Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. I'm taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion?
That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown. We're live on TalkSport. So Manchester City beat Liverpool 2-1 in a frantic finish at Anfield. Had they taken it from a title procession back to a title race again? Meanwhile, Cristian Romero, leader or liability? Also today, the model club for years. But is the Brighton bubble bursting? Qualifies somebody to be a pundit? Who's at risk of being hooked in by West Ham's revival? Will Eddie Howe be afforded an off-season? And can you find middle ground with fans who simply want you gone? It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on TalkSport.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on TalkSport.
So, when we're finished today, and I know we've just started, but at 1 o'clock, Martin Keown, Simon, I'm heading to the snowboard shop. Snowboarding. Discuss. I watched it last night, Martin. I couldn't take my eyes off it. Magnificent stuff from the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, I did see. I saw a little bit. Obviously, my wife's got it on 24 hours. She's glued to it, so I can see it in the background. There was a guy yesterday who started really slowly on this snowboard, and he just picks up speed. It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
Incredible, yeah.
Amazing.
Great to watch.
Yeah,
I'm actually wondering if it's more interesting than the Summer Olympics, Jim. There's so many, the ice hockey, the speed skating.
Yeah.
You know, the curling, by the way, the English pair we've got right now, they are different class. The woman player in there, her accuracy was something like 100%.
English?
Well, it's Scottish, I
there you
believe.
go. Yeah.
Well, they're not proud then to represent. That's another topic. We'll have that later, will we?
Team GB, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they're proud to be
but
British.
I think the lad Mowat hails from Stirling, or maybe Edinburgh. I might be wrong, but he's certainly Scottish. Well done, them. So, Simon, it made me think, snowboarding, dangerous, so much jeopardy attached to it. And then I think of paddle tennis. I mean, come on.
On ice. Can we do
What's
that on
that
ice?
about?
Why
Paddle
do-
tennis on ice. Now you're talking.
But paddle tennis isn't an Olympic sport. If it were Olympic sport, you'd be able to make the parallel. So you can take your facetiousness and you can poke it where the sun doesn't shine. If you're going to seriously... every time I watch the javelin, I always think of, I must go and watch the curling there and afterwards. When I'm watching somebody sprint for the 400 metres, I'm thinking I really must go and watch.
No, but don't knock the curling. Now, the curling, Jim, is actually quite riveting. And it's very interesting. You can hear everything. You hear all the feedback.
Yeah,
because people are asleep, that's why you can hear it.
No, it's good.
you
It's good. I think it's
You're right,
difficult.
Mark.
I think it's difficult that the commentary...
You can hear the kettle
There's
going
been
across
too
the
much
ice.
coverage of it because the British player are doing exceptionally well.
They're doing great. I found it fantastic. I was watching the skating last night after I watched the snowboarding. It's just terrific. So as for the curling, I know you don't like it. It's like
all right.
It's like chess on ice.
Yeah,
It's fabulous. It's all about placement, position. It's not like wandering about one of them paddle tennis bats just wafting it at anything you see.
But you've seen Joe Cole and Crouchy have a go at it, and they were saying it's really difficult.
Really difficult.
Really to get down that low into the
Precision.
weight. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you're with me on that, Martin.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Let's get back to paddle.
Exactly. Simon, you were being spoken about very warmly in very warm tones down at the Amex yesterday.
doubt it.
I was Ian Hart. Good morning to you. I was in the hospitality area at Brighton yesterday. I thoroughly enjoyed it with some Brighton supporters and some Palace fans as well, of course. We all had a very good afternoon down there as Crystal Palace left this derby match, as it's known as, with all 3 points. I'll talk about that later on. But
I want to hear a little bit of
very interesting
football perspective from you. Tell me how Larson played the new signing, and guess on.
You'll find out
Villa
in
player.
the fullness of time. We'll get back to that because we're going to kick off events at Anfield. As for Larson, he should have scored on his debut for Palace, but didn't. And I think he'll be kicking himself that he didn't, Martin. But we'll get to that. Not quite a donkey.
Important signing, though. Important signing.
Some quarters. Yes, and very popular with the Crystal Palace fans. But we'll get to that. Want to concentrate on this. Manchester City came from behind to beat Liverpool 2-1 in what was a frantic finish at Anfield. 10 minutes ago, they were staring down the barrel of a 9-point gap to Arsenal, but 2 late goals means the gap is back to 6 at the top. The title race very much on. Here's Pep.
I don't buy the product when everyone is before the title race is over. So City's not going to win today, and so it's done. So it's not. It's because we won. It's fine. I had the feeling that we'll improve a little bit, will not be enough to compete against Arsenal. But still, we have margin. They have to be at home. Of course, we have to beat them. And what I said, 13 games in the Premier League. From my point of view, from my little experience, is a lot of time. So all we can do is be breath in the neck of Arsenal, be in there and try. If they sleep, if they make something, they use it.
Now, Manchester City, Martin, can reduce that gap to 3 with victory at home to Fulham on Wednesday before Arsenal travel to Brentford on Thursday evening. Have they taken it, Martin, from a title procession back to a title race again?
Jim, before this, you think about the game before and you think, OK, if it goes to 9 points, then we know the narrative will be that Arsenal are champions. And I actually thought to myself, maybe it's better that City win this game, and just to keep it real. And this is the life of, if you're a prospective champion, this is the life that you have to lead. You expect the unexpected. It was an amazing result for City. But Arsenal didn't lose this weekend. Arsenal won a very important match against a really good side. Sunderland, I was at the game, covering it for TalkSport. I actually thought Sunderland, that is not a normal team that comes up from the Championship, Jim, with the players that they've purchased.
Yeah, but
all
Bernardo,
good individuals.
Bernardo
So that was
Silva, it says before the game, the whole team knew before the game the title race is over if we'd lost.
Well, that's the way they think. That's the way they are. And it was a back to the wall.
He didn't really say that. He was led into that conversation by the journalist. So I watched the interview.
His answer: the whole team knew before the game the title race is over if we lost.
He was led into that. I heard the interview. And so he didn't volunteer that information. He was sort of manoeuvred into that circumstance and positioned in that way. So he kind of agreed with what the journalist was saying.
Told
if they'd have lost the game.
He agreed with what the journalist
If
said.
they'd lost the game, do you think he'd been saying it's over? Absolutely not.
Well, there you are then.
Jim, there's so many twists and turns in this. When you've been on this road, right? Now, look, there are certain people who were at that game yesterday, former Manchester United players who've won this thing many, many times. I've won it as well. And you have to shut out the noise. It's about what you do, not what the opposition do. And of course, it would have been handy if it had gone 9 points clear. But the fact that it didn't happen, Arsenal are not derailed by that. Arsenal. I actually saw a lot from Arsenal at the weekend that makes me think, actually, do you know what? They could go the distance. But this is the life. When you're trying to lead, when you're trying to be a prospective champion, Jim, there are twists and turns. You stay calm and you stay confident and you go to the next game. Arsenal play Brentford now. Now, for those people, the neutrals that were, I mean, by the way, Sunderland gave everything at the weekend, so nobody was like, it wasn't an easy gimme for Arsenal. Brentford now is another very difficult game for Arsenal, as it would have been if they would have been 9 points clear.
They're all difficult games. We know that. Psychologically, might this be bigger for Manchester City, though, Simon, than it is for Arsenal?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with Arsenal. Arsenal don't need to worry about what Man City are doing. The only time Arsenal need to worry about what Man City are doing is when they're playing them. Arsenal are in control of their own destiny.
You don't think Arsenal players watched that game yesterday at Anfield?
They might do.
Of course they did.
But again, you're asking me what I think, not what they think. What I think is that Arsenal's only concern is what they do. They can't control what Man City do. If Man City go and beat teams 10-0 or lose 10-0, it's got nothing to do with Arsenal. If Arsenal win the games, Man City have got to get 3 better results out of the next 15 games. So 25 to 20% of the games, Man City have got to get better outcomes than Arsenal. And nothing about Arsenal's current form. And in fact, when they went up to Leeds and bashed the Leeds side that most people are struggling with in recent times, it gives you an indication that Arsenal are in very good form. Man City are not a Premier League winning side. How many of those players in that side have actually won the Premier League? This isn't the same Man City. The only thing that's the same is the coach. And we've seen this team getting beat by teams like Bodo Glimt, who I know are not mugs, as people have pointed out, but notwithstanding it, they don't spend 5 or 6, 7, 8, 900 million pounds on players like Man City have done over the last 4 or 5 years. So with due respect, I think Arsenal are in perfectly good order. I don't think it really matters what Manchester City do as far as Arsenal are concerned, only when they play them.
I mean, when you look at it now, I wonder how quickly, though, you can derail your rival via other competitions, Martin. On the 22nd of March, both teams face off at Wembley in the Carabao Cup final. 18th of April, both teams face off at the Etihad in the Premier League. As it stands in the Champions League, Manchester City and Arsenal could be on course to face each other in the quarter-finals. So all of a sudden, they're going to be living with each other. They're in each other's pockets, all within the space of a month. So don't tell me that Manchester City are going to forget about Arsenal at any time, and don't tell me that Arsenal are going to forget about Manchester City at any time. They're living with each other.
No, Jim, the very best teams rise to the top, don't they? That's what happens. We've seen them both in the League Cup final. That will be a significant game as well. I think the fact that Arsenal have reached a final is kind of got over a big hurdle for them. Lots of twists and turns. I was sort of ring fencing the Spurs game, the Chelsea game, the Brighton games for Arsenal. 3 really very difficult games that if they can keep winning, you need to go on these runs. I look back at some of the things I've won. We've gone and won 12 games to finish the season. We've won 14 games to finish the season.
Yeah.
You have to get into that kind of run. Now, it's not been that kind of consistency this year
with me
from
here,
City.
Though, Martin. That famous night at Villa Park when Giggs ran in and got the winner in the cup. And you guys trudged off with your heads down. Manchester United went on to win the title.
Yeah, but we actually, Jim, we hardly dropped any points between then and the end of the season. If you look,
they won it by a point.
Yeah,
they reeled you back in.
Yeah, I think what did we concede that season? 17 goals. The wheels did not come off for us.
But you lost the title.
We did, but I think it energised them tremendously to go on and do what they did. Because I think really we were maybe their sort of.
It was more energising them than it was heads down for you.
Point. No, we did. It didn't knock us back, but what we saw was that they made them do. They were inspired after that because they felt they could win a game. When you win a game, Jim, that your back's to the wall. If you look back at the game and they were down to 10 men, we had a penalty to finish it, didn't we? In the dying seconds, and you somehow win. You think, okay, this is ours this year. It gives you that extra belief because there's other feeling in there as well. That you have to be inspired, and they were.
If I remember,
this
right,
could
a lot
inspire.
of the United players said that was the moment that they thought we can do this league.
Yeah, because they can now look back, but we're not in a position yet to look back. Man City may look at this and say, well, do you know what? That was a definitive moment for us where we turn things around and it keeps the Premier League alive for the neutral. But it was always alive, Jim. And actually, I think 6 points instead of 9 is healthier because the narrative, if we are to say, and people are accusing Arsenal of being mentally not strong enough, if they go 9 points clear, then it's theirs to lose again. And we get all of that propaganda that is worked to try and keep this story alive.
Propaganda from who?
Well, that's what I would see it as if I was on the inside. I'm listening. I'm shutting out all the noise.
Yeah.
Get your head down, win your matches.
Yeah. Do you think that's how modern day players look at it? That this is all the noise is propaganda?
No, I think there's been some people that have actually gone on and won many of these things, and they're very skilled and adapt to trying to keep the story alive, keep it going. And of course, Man City did that yesterday. They don't need any help, really.
Who in particular?
I'm not going to name names because I don't want to give them actually more
Well, you
airplay
brought it up.
on this. Yeah, I'm talking generally.
Yeah.
You know the show that we were watching yesterday.
You're talking Neville Keane, people like that.
Those sorts of people, yeah.
All right, okay. Well, I named them for you. So, where are we now? Manchester City coming from behind to beat Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield. Have they taken it from a title procession back to a title race again? City fans, you get your tails up now. You could romp right through and win this. Or Arsenal fans, are you totally unperturbed what your light blue neighbours are going to do up in the northeast? You might want to give me a call on that. 03717 223344 81089 on a Monday morning.
I mean, arguably, Crook, it could have been a lot worse than this, couldn't it? We thought it might be. This was an additional charge. There was an additional charge for a failing of an obligation to provide full, complete and prompt assistance to the Premier League. Let's be clear. They tried to use a loophole to stop getting an earlier points deduction when they were in the Premier League. Leicester said it was disproportionate, but did they get off lightly?
Yes. And I think Leicester as a football club have been punished for trying to wriggle out of things by trying to use, as Simon Jordan described, the sort of black hole where they were neither a Championship or a Premier League club in order to dodge the charges. They've caught up with them in the end. I know the Premier League were pushing for as many as 20 points to be taken off Leicester, which pretty much would have resigned them, I think, to League One football next season. Will they
appeal the Premier League that this isn't harsh enough, the punishment?
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't think Leicester will appeal. And maybe risk a further point deduction. I think they should feel they got off lightly. But just looking at their statement, and a lot of Leicester fans have picked up on this, it probably tells you where they're at as a football club. There was no real contrition from Leicester. They're still trying to play the victim for the fact they breached PSR rules.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Good morning, everybody. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown. We are live on TalkSport, courtesy of Selco. It's where the trade goes. I tell you where I went yesterday, down to the Amex, watched Brighton lose at home in that derby match, as it's known, to Chris. I spoke to a couple of seasoned Brighton fans at the end of the game who were none too happy with life under Fabian Hürzeler at this precise time. And in the world of boxing, Simon, we'll get to it, but Nick Ball's homecoming weekend spoiled by Brandon Figueroa. And I felt for Ball because in front of his home fans, what an occasion. But it was quite a crushing defeat, wasn't it?
Yeah, he lost the fight trying to win the fight. It was a very tight fight against a very good fighter that's a two-weight world champion. And it's probably his toughest test since he won the belts off Ray Ford. And there's an argument to say, with all due respect to Frank, who probably won't agree with me, that some of the fights he's had have been a little bit on the gimme side. Frank will probably tell me off for that. And I think when you get up a level again, this is what you get. And, you know, it was a fabulous punch to knock him out. But Nick Ball was so game. And the guy that won, Figueroa, was a deserved winner.
Yeah.
You know, and Nick will come again. He'll come again.
Here we are at Monday morning. And, of course, we know how the Premier League table looks. Arsenal top it. Manchester City giving chase. Villa in third. Manchester United fourth. Chelsea fifth. Liverpool sixth. Liverpool sixth at the moment. So, having lost at home to Manchester City yesterday, has this season now got a Champions League or bust feel about it for Arne Slot? Here's Slot now.
I can live with the fact, although I don't like it, that the referee follows the rule book and Dominic makes a foul on Haaland in that last situation, which is a clear shirt pull, and he was through to goal, so he would have scored. So that's a red card. And I think the Sunderland manager is really happy that he gives the red card. So that's the rule book, and you follow the rule book. And if you follow the rule book and you have a clear shirt pull from Gueye and Mo Salah, who's for 8 years scoring that ball every single time, 100 out of 100 times he scores that goal, a bit exaggerated, and that is not a red card, then there is more of my frustration. But I can live with the red card from if you like football, you say, leave it as it is, it's a goal, it's good for them, it's good for everyone. But if you're the Sunderland manager, you prefer to see a red card. And that's the rule, and follow the rules is all we ask.
So let's have a look at what Slot was talking about. We heard the boys on breakfast talk about this morning. The goal that never was. Manchester City had the third goal disallowed by VAR in stoppage time. Ryan Cherky finished from inside his own half into an empty net. Alisson at the other end as Liverpool tried to salvage an equaliser. Szoboszlai pulled Haaland's shirt initially. The referee played advantage, but then Haaland pulled Szoboszlai's shirt as the ball rolled into the net. VAR got involved and the goal was disallowed, with Szoboszlai sent off instead and a free kick awarded to City. How do you look at this morning, Martin? I heard Jeff Stelling with Neil Warnock. Yeah. Common sense should be applied. Common sense should be applied. Is this a perfect example for those who love to argue that VAR is killing the game?
Do you know, normally I'd always put common sense, as you know, whenever I'm talking on this show, trying to be rational, we always use common sense as sort of a benchmark. But when the laws of the game supersede that, and in this situation, you could say, well, why did the referee not act immediately? Because what it would look like to me, Szoboszlai, who we know is quick, by the way, it's one of those, it's an ego thing. He sees someone dashing past him, destroying him for pace, and he pulls him back. And I'm thinking, okay, he's off. And then it allowed to go on. And it's like, well, we can't equal that up. Jim, there has to be a jeopardy. You know you're getting sent off. Of course, Sunderland looking at it, the manager Slot's absolutely right. The player should be sent off. And I'm not going to jump. There are rules. Every day there are rules. Jim, you can't go across a red light. We have to abide by them. You have the man in black on the pitch, but the man in black on the street. Every day we have rules, and when the rules supersede really common sense, then they have to be applied.
So you
and
agree
that's
with
what
the
happened.
decision?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried why the referee didn't see that in the moment. But yeah, okay, it was emotional. There's a lot going on. People describe it in certain ways. But I think in the end they came to the right decision.
See, the boys in breakfast, Simon, were talking about common sense and getting very rattled that common sense, the spirit of the game, wasn't applied here.
Well, common sense is a contradiction in terms, isn't it? Because if it was common, everyone would deploy it. And more often than they don't. So when someone does something that people think, that's common sense, it isn't, because most people don't think necessarily that way. The rules haven't been drafted very well. If you want to allow subjectivity, if you want to allow the outcome to negate the behaviour, what you're suggesting is that the fact that he fouled him didn't result in the fact that a goal wasn't scored, but he still fouled him. So if it hadn't been a goal scored, then that would have been okay to have been sent off. But the fact is, there was a goal scored, so there's no harm, no foul.
So what would you liken it to? So if I'm on the goal line and I put my hand up and it's a penalty, and it's like, oh, there's a penalty, is enough. No, you got sent off as well. You're going to know that, aren't you? As a player, you're going to get sent off. There's a double jeopardy now.
I mean, the key component is don't pull him back.
That's the rule.
Don't pull him back.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that what everyone wants to argue about is the ridiculousness of the rules, and I'd like to understand the thinking, because we all sit there in isolation and go, you imbeciles that draft these rules, you have no common sense, you have no understanding of the game. Okay, let's pare that back and go, why did they come to that conclusion? Then analyse that, because no one ever does that. They just go, doesn't work. And then when the referee uses subjectivity, because something has happened that worked out all fine for everybody, right? It worked out that the goal was scored, so it's all fine for everybody. It doesn't excuse the fact that Szoboszlai committed a foul. He just didn't have the outcome that he wanted. He didn't quite get the outcome that the foul was intended to do.
Look,
with that in mind, I think the referee's put in an invidious position, and all we seem to want to do, all it seems to be, a referee uses subjectivity. You don't understand the game, you don't know what you're doing. The referee applies the rules. You don't use any common sense. If you want to get involved in the drafting of rules and really understanding why these rules have been drafted in this fashion, because there must be a reason why that rule is drafted that way, and all the referee has done is apply the letter of the law. You either want him to do that or you don't.
You can't
They can't win, can they?
That can't be allowed to be referee on a notion of common sense. Because look, Jim, this Premier League could be won by goal difference. That could be the one goal that denies Man City the chance to win it. And if that's in the rule book, that's in the rule book. You have to just suck it up. They won the game. They did enough. They got enough as it was. At the end of the day, it's not a levelling up exercise, Jim. The law has to be applied.
Yeah.
100%.
Can you imagine if common sense was applied and this goal was allowed to stand? Can you imagine the backlash this Monday morning from that decision?
Oh, for sure. That's one of the things where VAR, it probably is there to correct things in the right and proper manner, because the referee wasn't able to really think in the moment.
So undoubtedly, in this studio right now, we are agreed the decision was right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that. Listen, it'll be debated throughout football. That's the thing. Everyone's got their own opinion, and I think the letter of the law needed to be applied, and it was.
Do you not find it irritating, Simon, though, to hear on such a regular basis from certain people, we should go back to what it was like before?
I don't find it irritating. I think it's hypocritical, because the reasons why it's changed is because you wouldn't accept what it was before. So you didn't accept the principles of what was in front of you. You criticised and you constantly suggested that there needed to be improvements. And at one point, people were embracing technology. Now you don't like this version of technology. I agree that technology has made a rod for its own back at times by not being as sophisticated as it could have been, and also allowing the lazy, unprofessional, deeply inconsistent narrative that this was a panacea. VAR comes in and you are going to get it right 100% of the time. And that's the lazy seeding of a position that now is ultimately what VAR has been judged by. And the managers themselves,
this was easy.
They're hypocrites, the lot of them. It was 2-3 weeks ago when David Moyes was complaining about a situation surrounding a penalty that was either given or not given. And you know damn well, if it had been for him, he wouldn't have been complaining against it. But this week he was complaining about it. So now you can't expect them to argue for their own offence. But if you would be arguing against it if it didn't go your way, why would you argue for it when it does?
This was an easy decision for VAR because the law was on their side, wasn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
What Slot was arguing about was there was an earlier pull on the shirt of Salah in the match.
Yeah.
And again, it's subjective from the VAR because they didn't get involved. And you could say he denied a goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah.
But for me, I think they got that right as well because the angle was too difficult for him to get in.
Off went Dominic Szoboszlai. Elsewhere, off went Cristian Romero. Tottenham Hotspur captain, leader or liability? We'll look at that next.
You can believe what? Why is it so hard to believe a black man than a white man? Understand me? Why is it so hard to believe a black man than a white man?
Why you don't believe it?
Why is it?
Let me answer the question.
Yeah, go on.
So we go there.
First and foremost, it's got nothing to do with colour.
No, yes. This whole country got some. This whole world got something to do with race. You think you got? You think you pan out? You think you have a? You think you done had a great life? You think your life has been like mine?
How is Derek Chisora then, out of curiosity, given he's a black man, a national treasure in this country then? It's not about colour. You called somebody a cheat. I asked you a question.
Oh, come on. You have a whole lot of black people around this.
The question.
Thank you.
Like the question.
Stop,
You like the question. All right, I moved on.
Stop it.
I moved on.
Man, come on, man. Y'all can't tell, man.
So the bronze bomber, there he is.
Yeah, so come on, man.
Come on, we can have a disagreement, can't we?
Life, as a little boy and I bet your view as a little boy is totally different than my view as a little boy. Most black people, why we so into it with each other, because we have PTSD.
Well, was anyone happy with Ryan Cherki's goal being disallowed for Man City? Well, former Premier League referee Chris Foy has told us the VAR was right to send Craig Pawson to the monitor.
You can't put emotion in this. It's about refereeing a football match and applying the laws of the game. Now, that might sound really boring, but he has to do his job.
Will City keep the title race alive with that 2-1 comeback win at Anfield? And Pep has called for common sense over that VAR review that disallowed Cherki's third and also saw Szoboszlai sent off.
The goal that should be allowed, because at the end, listen, nothing changed. 3-1. Szoboszlai can play next game.
Well, Szoboszlai will miss Liverpool's trip to Sunderland live on TalkSport on Wednesday night. Elsewhere, we understand Newcastle's Sandro Tonali would be keen to head back to Italy. Man United, City and Arsenal are all monitoring his availability. Juve are also interested. In the T20 World Cup, Scotland have started with a convincing 73-run win over Italy. And the Seattle Seahawks dominated the New England Patriots in a one-sided Super Bowl 60. TalkSport's NFL commentator is Will Gavin.
30 yards, and this is the play that this game truly deserves.
Loads more, as always, on the TalkSport USA YouTube channel.
Good morning, everybody. Just gone 10:30 this Monday morning, Monday, February the 9th. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Martin Keown. And we are alive and well and broadcasting from the 17th floor of the news building here at London Bridge. Thanks to everybody who came up to me yesterday. Brighton fans, Palace fans as well. Palace fans were in great voice down at the Amex yesterday. It was quite a day. Hi to both Paul and David, who are big Palace fans. Chatting to me in the train coming back. Good lads, they are too. I'm glad you enjoyed your day. Cristian Romero, Tottenham Hotspur captain, didn't particularly enjoy his day at the weekend. Spurs were beaten at Old Trafford by 2-0. Thanks in part to their captain Romero being sent off for a challenge on Casemiro. So Cristian Romero, in view of what we've heard from him in recent times, is he a leader or is he a liability? Post-match, Thomas Frank spoke about Romero and that red card.
And also, he was also sorry for the incident. He said, apologized to his teammates in the changing room. Hasn't spoken specific about this situation because he apologized to the players and to us, to the players, to the team in there. And that's enough for me for now. Then there's how can you say? That's it. Nothing more to do now.
So, I mean, that was one thing. Actually, in the passing, Martin, how should Romero feel? after that? I mean, the apology was almost inevitable, wasn't it? How will he really feel about that, do you think?
Well, you'd have to say he'd be at rock bottom right now. And he would feel that he's completely let down his colleagues. In a way, I think it extends to his family because his reputation now is severely dented. There has to be a period of contrition where he's kind of like, sorrowful for what he's done because, Jim, it seems to be one misdemeanor after another. From the outside, you're almost looking like, is this almost deliberate? I don't believe it is for a minute. But can you, as the manager, are you able to try and change his behaviour? Is he able to show the signs that he'll change? He needs to be a role model, and he's getting it all wrong completely, and it's his behaviour.
It's a bit late for role model, isn't it, Simon? This is his 6th red card since joining the club in August 2021.
In that time, Jim, no other player in the Premier League has been sent off more times than him.
Yeah.
So this is something that is growing.
So that's my point. It's an apology, and an apology that's accepted by Thomas Frank. Is that enough?
Well, it depends what you want from him. I mean, ultimately, you want that side of his game to be curtailed a little bit. But you've got the other side of it where he's been speaking out in the media and saying things that people don't think he should be saying, and he probably shouldn't be saying. But that's the culture of the football club. That's the environment he's been allowed to operate in, and that's the football club's fault. If you've got players that speak out like that and feel they can do it with impunity, then you've got a problem inside your football club that you need to arrest. Now, going to the football, on the footballing side of things, getting sent off. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we were lauding him about the fact that he goes and scores a last-minute goal against Burnley and gets them back in the game, and he's dragged them into different places. It's a bad challenge. It's a bad challenge. There have been times when I think Romero has felt that he's a better player than Tottenham Hotspur, felt he's above Tottenham Hotspur. And I don't think that's so much now, but I think in previous seasons...
Signed a 4-year deal, though, in the summer, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's, they made him captain. So they know his... If they don't know, I don't think Thomas Frank knew his record in terms of that. I mean... To me, maybe I'm just a bit antiquated. I think being sent off 5 or 6 times over 5 or 6 years is not a huge crime. And if we look back into previous times, players will be getting sent off quite regularly. It's just that we've got a slightly more sanitised game now. But is he a liability or is he a leader? I think he's probably a bit of both. And the liability side of things is what he says in the media. That's drawn attention upon him. That's the club's fault.
But that defeat of the weekend's on him. 100% is on him because we go down to 10 men and you're playing second fiddle.
And it's damaging.
You're on the back foot the whole time.
So it's a 4-match ban now until March the 5th.
And the argument then people will turn around and say Thomas Frank should get control of him and pull him away from the captaincy. Go on then.
I think Thomas Frank is an actual gentleman, the way he's trying to deal with this. But look, he'll have his judgment.
He hasn't got the authority.
Simon, he'll have his judgment day.
I hear you.
The player will not be a part of the future if he continues to behave in the way he is now.
The question that is being asked of Thomas Frank and was asked and was mooted over the weekend about should he be captain of the team. Thomas Frank hasn't got control of his ship right now. He hasn't got the control of that dressing room. And by the way, he hasn't got a natural leader to step in Romero's shoes. So whether we like it or we don't...
I think Van der Ven can be developed.
Van der Ven wants to leave.
Well, he could be developed into the...
Van der Ven wants to leave. So he's got this problem, Thomas Frank, where he's not winning games. He's not got the fans on side. He's got a challenge in of himself. So if he takes Romero out, Romero needs to be consequenced in a way that can keep him in the dressing room for the time being. They're going to have to utilise him. Whether you like it or you don't like it, Tottenham are not in good nick. You can't just bin off your captain as you could do if you're winning football matches and in control of your own
We
destiny.
sat here and argued about Bamiyang a few years ago, and I was trying to defend him because I thought, OK, let's keep the player at the football club. Let's keep the player at the football club, and maybe we're cutting your nose off spite your face. And there may be a feeling about this with Romero right now. But actually, if you want to change the culture of that football club, right, and there's a serious problem with the culture of that football club, maybe this is the one to say, do you know what? He doesn't play for our football club again. We're making a change. He's on the track. Now, I know it's a big commodity and it's a gamble, but it's a change of direction and a change of culture. Because I would say, if you see this on the outside, on the inside, it's even worse. On the inside, his behaviour around the players is not good for the next generation. And therefore, big decisions have to be made around this player. He's at a crossroads in his career, Jim. We've got a topic later on about respect as former players to talk. I think this guy is a top player. But there's something there that sparks and he's off the pitch. It can't continue. He has to make that decision, otherwise he walks at the end of the season.
We saw these things with players previously. You can never excuse some of the on-field stuff from Roy Keane. You can never excuse what he did to Erling Haaland's father. But notwithstanding it, he was still a fabulous leader and he needed to be pulled in at times. And
he was winning copious amounts of trophies.
Yes, okay, let me get that right then. So as long as you're winning something, it mitigates your behaviour. And the fact that the squad was good enough to be able to carry Keane when I think it's
lost
if he
in
cuts
the washing
if he
a little
cuts,
bit.
I'm all for the hard yards, and I don't think getting rid of Aubameyang was the same comparison because Arsenal didn't miss him and didn't lose anything as a
Yeah, they
result.
did. That season he went to Barcelona and scored a hatful of goals.
No,
They
but
made the Champions League. Arsenal didn't win the Champions League,
everybody-
but their future was to be a better one.
Everybody knew
There has to be a sacrifice
everybody
here.
that sat in the studio, and me and Jim being included, forecast that Aubameyang would lift the leg when he went to Barcelona. We all knew it because he'd go and do it in spurts. What he was doing was creating a polluted environment inside the dressing room that was relatively solidified in certain ways of a new manager.
Impressionable young players.
This is a different dressing room. Now, I don't disagree. The harder yards are that you take control of the situation. So let's get it right. Arteta was being supported by his board. He was supported by his board in the Aubameyang decision. You've got a group of people that didn't employ Thomas Frank, that are not entirely sure about Thomas Frank's future. So he's going to go to them and say, the player that you just signed a 4-year contract on, that we've made captain, I'm going to jettison him.
You're suggesting that, son. You wholeheartedly they gave Thomas Frank the job.
No, they didn't.
Well, why not? How are you saying this? Do you have inside information that we don't have? Then
yes, I do. Because Daniel Levy and self-evident information.
He's not there anymore, is he? So what's he going to do?
So
Try
my
and
point.
sabotage
Don't be so bloody stupid. Then Daniel Levy's not there, and neither is Paratici. They were the two.
So
people.
he's exposed now because he's gone.
Yes, I do. I think he's absolutely got no allies there.
Well, maybe he's better off without him.
Well, that's a different argument.
Because maybe that person was also
which
detrimental long-term to the club.
Which argument
Depends
do you want me to respond to?
If you want to look at everything, the money that Spurs have made and how valuable they are, and the shares that are actually Daniel Levy's shares, by the way.
What's that got to do?
Were those decisions made for Daniel Levy's shares to become even more valuable?
Right, so that all of that has...
Or was it for the team on the pitch?
All of that has nothing to do with Cristian Romero. Right, so let's go to the point in hand.
Well, you spread it out. You spread it out into.
No, what I did was I talked about the ridiculousness of your binary argument, which is just
not ridiculous. It's not
ridiculous. Sat here 2 years ago.
It's not ridiculous because it's about culture.
Maybe you've been
it's about behaviour.
And maybe you've been on a journey.
You sometimes have to sacrifice someone.
And maybe myself and Jim have helped you on this journey because
I thought we were helping you on a journey.
Because your ridiculous assertion was in the studio 2 years ago because you just like
2 years ago. I got the dates for that.
3 years ago.
Okay, go on. Make it 3.
Aubameyang had to be stayed. Now because it's Tottenham.
Because I was looking at
Romero has to go.
I thought maybe there could be a way that was
work your way through that audience.
But I thought there might be a way. Give me a chance to riposte then. So I thought that there was a chance for Aubameyang to find a way to meet his needs and have that guy, that goal scorer in the team. But okay, the biggest picture.
You were wrong.
The bigger picture. What I'm saying is Spurs need to look at Arsenal because they looked at the bigger picture. They got rid of all the bad apples, and what they've done is they've gone on now to be possible champions this season. Right? It's been a good story. Spurs need to. There's some tough love here now at Spurs. They have to make some big decisions.
If memory serves me right, Martin, before he was jettisoned, Aubameyang, Arteta stripped him of the captaincy.
Yeah, maybe something similar.
In this situation, does this need to apply here?
I think that's the first step. And can he live with it? Does he really want to show that he can be on board? Because they could be successful, Spurs. I don't believe they're that far. Look what they've done in the Champions
Simon's
League.
point here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, you don't think Thomas Frank has the authority to do that, or maybe the self-confidence to do that at this precise time?
I think he should have, but I think it's very... And what I'm doing is framing it into a way it's very difficult for him, because ultimately he's got a team of players that we're arguing about that are not doing their jobs for him currently. We've got a fan base that's not behind him. And we've got a captain that in recent games has been lauded. I said here a couple of weeks ago, by the way, stop applauding Romero because his defensive performances have been poor. And I got paraded upon by Tottenham fans.
So is Thomas Frank getting this wrong then? Because obviously they're now teetering on the edge of being in a relegation
Well, is he getting
battle.
it right then?
Well, so is it one of those, well, I need the player back, but he's not going to have him for the next 4 games. So in those 4 games, if they're to secure their Premier League status, he might not be a place for him anyway.
I'm all for cutting your nose off to spite your face if the bigger picture prevails. I'm not entirely sure the timing of it. Yes, I think that Romero needs to be given a kick up the backside, and I thought that a couple of years ago. But is there a time and a place to do it? Because you can make... It's very easy to go in the dressing room and pick a fight with the biggest noise in there to be able to prove a point to everybody else in the dressing room.
Thomas Frank's not trying to do that, is he?
Well, he may have to.
He could have done it already if he was that type of manager.
He may have to. Well, what's he done it for previously? Because he spoke out of term. That's on the board. If you've got a player that works for a manager that thinks he can say things about the board and you don't do anything about it, that's not on the board.
Does the manager not toe the company line and say, okay, look, you can't do that to the bosses. We all work for them.
Well, I tell you what, let's put this out, because obviously it's heated in here and we've got a variety of different opinions. But to Tottenham Hotspur fans specifically, Cristian Romero, what is he? A leader or a liability? Sent off at the weekend, and now you're without him for 4 games. 4-match ban. He'll have missed 7 of Tottenham's last 18 domestic games. So where are you at with Romero? Have you had enough? Give us a shout. 03717 223344.
Let's focus on Chelsea. Liam Rosenior back pages again. Rosenior hits out at Arsenal. Chelsea head coach accused the opponents of disrespect for disrupting his side's warm-up before the cup tie.
I wouldn't come out with that, me.
I guess he was asked about it.
Bat it away, use your brains, use your head. Say, oh, mate, what's your point? You saying that costs the game? No.
He got a bit excited, didn't he? Really, you saw if you've watched the video, I'd love to see how far onto their side of the pitch they were, because they didn't pan round, did they? They just showed him giving a bit to somebody. You didn't see who it was at. You didn't see how far they were into there. If they're right in their half and they're constantly doing it, then I get it. I understand it, but still, it's just.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. I'm taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How do you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Crook, my colleague here at TalkSport, one of our listeners this morning, just got in touch with me. TalkSport understands Edward Still, brother of former Southampton boss Will Still, is set to be named the new head coach at Watford. He's a former assistant, Simon, at Lons and at Anderlecht. And now Edward Still is set to be named in a position in his own right as a new head coach at Watford. So, I mean, one wonders, Edward must have a large degree of confidence in himself, taking on the Watford job for a start.
Well, they know what they're going into. It's like any manager goes into Chelsea at times. They knew they were going to get fired at some points. It comes with pressure. It might be an opportunity. Nothing seems to detract from people's reputations, because everyone knows that Watford are slightly erratic in the way that they hire and fire managers. They don't have a belief in the orthodoxy of giving people time. I subscribe to their view to some extent, not to the extremes that they go to. But, I mean, this guy coming in from an assistant point of view, you know, how they know him, what they know of him, why they recruited him. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say about it.
Yeah, Edward Still taking over as a new head coach of Watford. Watford 11th at the moment, 3 points off the playoffs, so you never know. A bit of Still magic. They could get the whole ship going there. We shall see. We'll watch it closely. In the meantime, we're watching events at Tottenham at the moment, because Thomas Frank does not have his problems to seek. Zero. So it's his second red card of the season, and now he faces a 4-game suspension. That's on the field. That's on the field of play, because for most of Thomas Frank's pre-match build-up to this, he was facing questions about Romero after yet another social media swipe at the boardroom on deadline day. This was Thomas.
If you want to know what he meant, you of course need to ask him. I think that's the right way to take that question. Kochi is a very passionate character and player that they want to leave everything on the pitch, and is very ambitious and want to win every single time. Sometimes when you are like that, sometimes there can come an outburst. It happened this time, and it's something we have, of course, dealt with internally.
Simon, if he was to end up being stripped of the armband, would it be because of his off-field comments in the build-up to important matches, or because of his on-field behaviour? What would be more worthy of him losing the armband?
I think ultimately the on-field behaviour goes with the territory of a player that plays on the edge at times, and you can price that into your thinking, try and coach it out of him, and try and get him to realise, don't make him a captain first if you feel that there's a risk attached to it, because on one hand we'll argue that the modern-day captain has no influence, on the other hand we'll use it to weaponise against the player that does things that we don't concur with, right? So the fact that captain doesn't seem to mean much in certain people's conversations in this day and age, yet it does mean a lot when you're using it against the circumstance. The challenge for me is that if Thomas Frank were working for me, I would be asking him why he doesn't have control over his player. Why his player seems to believe on 2 or 3 occasions now he's able to say what he wants, about what he wants, when he wants. He gets to say that people are liars. He gets to call actual members of the board people that say lies. Now, maybe the Tottenham fan disagree with that. Maybe it's playing to a gallery that's a receptive audience. But as an owner of a football club, as a senior authority, you're not going to appreciate that. You're going to think, who the hell are you? So it makes Thomas Frank look very, very weak, that he doesn't have the ability to be able to curtail that sort of thinking. Some people might think, I don't happen to be in that camp, that the modern-day footballer should be able to express his views. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they should be able to challenge the circumstances in which they play in, because that's what it should happen. I think that's ludicrous. I think that's anarchy in the waiting. You've got to have order. You've got to have respect. You've got to have a culture based upon, everyone accepting where their positions in the food chain are. But for some people, they'd argue it. I think that Romero is a good player. I think he's a very good player. He wouldn't be, part of an Argentinian side if he wasn't a good player.
He's a World Cup winner, isn't he?
He's a World Cup winner, obviously. But in this instance, he's not helping in any shape or form Thomas Frank, because he makes life difficult for him in his off-the-field comments. I don't know, Martin's a centre-half. I looked at the challenge, I thought it was a bad challenge. But all of a sudden, we're taking him out the back and want to shoot him for a bad challenge. People make bad challenges in football matches. Was it that bad a challenge? Could he have avoided making that challenge? Was it? Because people were saying that he did it on purpose. I was listening to other players saying that he left his leg straight in there. He could have pulled himself out of it. Didn't he just go into a challenge and make a mistake by making a bad challenge?
Well, he was coming out of one challenge and into another.
Yeah.
So Cunha, he'd kind of struck the arm into a Manchester United player, which looked to me quite aggressive. And he does. It's like he flicks a switch, and then he's ready again to.
Was it a temperamental challenge?
A little bit. Or was
it a robust challenge?
Somebody had a nibble at him. Well, he instigated that, to be honest. Put the arm across, quite aggressive, a lot of power in that. And then he's come out of a challenge and he's still in that. And the velocity of that challenge, for me, at no point he should have been thinking, he's too close. I've got this wrong. Pull up a bit. And I don't think he's gone on there with a preconceived idea to get sent off or be stupid. And I'm listening to Thomas Frank, who I always admire. And I always think to himself, he's a manager who's looking at it and thinking, well, look, how can I get the best from that player? Is it on me a little bit? There's obviously a lot of energy and a lot of leadership here under the bonnet, but it's coming out in the wrong way. So then you go back to the basics and you say, okay, it's kind of like the rules of behaviour. Go back to rules again. The rules of behaviour for the group. He's stepping out of line on the pitch and off the pitch. And so forth. Look, it doesn't matter what he's going to do or offer on the pitch, we need to pull him out for a little while.
I mean, off the pitch, Simon, is he making the ownership look a bit weak with his comments?
Is he making them look weak?
He's compromised the ownership,
Well,
hasn't he?
we don't know what they've said to him subsequently, because he's snibbled back from them, hasn't he? He immediately withdrew the statement that he made on Instagram.
He's internalised it, hasn't he? He said it's been dealt with internally.
We talk about the idea that they need to consider that they price into their thinking that it's an emotive reaction to a certain disappointment. No, it's not. He trundled off home and did it on Instagram. He didn't do it in a post-match press interview where he's beside himself with the circumstances that have just manifested themselves. He took himself away from the ground and did an Instagram post several hours later and said what he wanted to say. That's a cultural thing. That's a lack. Now, we don't know whether Tottenham's hierarchy came down on him like a ton of bricks and said to him, you ever say that sort of stuff again, because he retracted some of it, pared back from some of it.
But the spotlight was on him, and he's not the type, is he, to step back?
It would seem not. So that's why it prompts the question, Romero, leader or liability? Jason, good morning. What do you think? Jason, Tottenham fan, leader or liability?
Good morning. It's such a mix, because when I go back to kind of pre-season, and I think that he signed a 4-year contract, I thought that was one of Daniel Levy's finest hours, to manage to convince him to stay at Tottenham with a 4-year contract. I thought it was a brilliant bit of business for us, and I was really excited about it. I think that had he not done the Instagram post, but got sent off this weekend, we probably wouldn't be talking about it in depth as we are at the moment. But it's come off the back of the post, and he had all the. I was there on Saturday, and he had all the away fans singing songs about him, positive songs about him, which I probably can't repeat on the radio. Sort of saying nasty things about the board and how wonderful he is, right? He was fired up. All right. The challenge, do I think it was intentional? No. Do I think it was a bit stupid? Yes. Do I think he's become a liability? Yes. And do I also think does he want out of Tottenham? Because I think the board have completely lied to him about where we're going as a club. And I think he's being a very clever man now in his own way.
So you think he's been lied to by the board, Jason? You think he's been?
Why he signed a 4-year contract I would imagine on promises of where Tottenham were going. And look where Tottenham are currently. Everyone keeps telling me about the manager. He seems like a lovely man. But Postecoglou beat this manager twice last season and we finished 17th in the league. Okay, his old team, I think, are 6th in the league this morning.
Jason,
right?
Can you imagine what Simon might say to that? The board, in Christian's eyes, according to Jason, have lied to him.
Well, I mean, they spent £200 million, didn't they? And I've said since the departure of Daniel Levy, well, you guys are now saying that the football club now has to be run differently, even though you were the majority shareholders and Daniel probably danced to your tune anyway. So now you're going to do something different. So off you go then. So I'm not going to argue with the fact that the board need to do more, but to suggest that you've sat down with an individual player and said, well, I tell you what we'll do is we'll spend £250 million exactly as you want us to. You tell us how you want us to spend it and we'll spend it the way you want to. Is that absolute nonsense?
Here's Luke, who's a Tottenham fan. Good morning, Luke. Romero, where are you at with Cristian Romero?
Morning, gentlemen. Great show. For me, he's an absolute liability. Look, you might disagree, some of you, but he's not that good of a player. He gets the ball, he slows it down every time. Under pressure, he isn't the greatest. He's always got a mistake in him. To me, that tackle the other day was a tackle of someone that doesn't want to be at the club anymore. He's spat his dummy out. And the most frustrating thing for me was that was probably our best first half performance up to that red card that we played all season. We were well in the game. We were having chance after chance along with Man United. It was very open. It was entertaining. But from our point of view as a performance, collectively, we were doing well up until that red card, and he absolutely ruined it.
So what you're saying is, look, yes, he's part of a golden group of players who won the World Cup, but you wouldn't be that bothered if he leaves?
I'd take the money, Jim. I really would, because he gets paid to do a job, which is make tackles. Great. Is he any better than what other teams have got? Not massively. He's part of a World Cup team. People could argue and say, put him in a better team and he'll thrive, he'll be great. Yeah, good, fair enough.
Yeah.
I just don't see it at the moment.
Look, before you leave us, it's a good call, mate. What bothers you more, the on-field antics or the off-field comments?
The on-field, look, he's correct with the off-field comments, 100%. This is now another manager who are not being supported the way they should be. He's just a scapegoat, unfortunately. We do not buy great players. We never have done, Jim. We could argue and say, yeah, you're spending this, you're spending that. But let's be realistic. Who's scouting these players?
Okay, look, we're going to squeeze in Nigel. Nigel, come on here with us, Nigel, very briefly. We're just about to hit the 11 o'clock bulletin. Where do you stand on Romero, leader or liability?
I think he's a liability, Jim, and I agree with Simon. I think basically that you're right in what you say, Simon. He slows play down, and there's always a mistake in him. He's a World Cup winner, yes, in a world-class team. Is he world-class? I don't think so. I'd get rid of him, personally. That's my view.
Wow. Okay, Nigel, thank you for that. Not a lot of love amongst his own supporters for Cristian Romero.
No, it was interesting when he went off ill, which again is, if he's such a tough, hard man, I found that a bit hard to believe, went off ill against Man City, that they turned it round.
I mean, we just heard one caller turn around and say that he was being celebrated by the fans. Because, of course, he is the lesser of two evils. The board and the people that run the football club are the ultimate responsibility for the players' performance on the field. Because, according to everybody, it's the board that bought these players and the players' performances are their fault. The fact that Tottenham are not doing as well as those capability of players should be on the players, should be on the manager. So it depends. The overriding narrative is excuse everybody, just attack the guys that own the club. Excuse the manager, excuse the players, ignore the fact they spent 250 million quid, ignore that, right, and tell them they've got to spend 500. And when they've spent 500 and they still don't get what you want, because there is a situation where Spurs aren't one of the top sides in England, they're not going to get what the top 6 clubs get. They're not going to get a player that's going to go to Liverpool or to Arsenal or to Manchester City, because there's a reason why those players are going there, because these are the teams that are winning things. Now, how do you turn that into something? Maybe the wage structure at Spurs. When you say you don't sign good players, of course you sign good players. You sign Gav Bell.
But I'm looking at some of the players like
changes, isn't it?
Kudos is now not a bad player. He's injured.
Yeah, exactly.
Simons is. I've been really surprised at how well he's done, Jim. So they're not all disasters, but there's a hell of a lot of injuries there. I'll be looking at that very closely.
It's funny how it changes, isn't it? Manchester United fans, no doubt, they're very happy with life under Michael Carrick at the moment. I was at, as I said earlier, Brighton yesterday. Brighton fans not happy with Fabian Hürzeler. We'll get to that. A lot to get through. Just gone 11 this Monday morning.
I think there's times as well, isn't there? You look at the problem at Sheffield Wednesday and how Barry Bannon's gone about it when he's been there and he's come out and spoke when members of staff aren't getting paid and stuff. There's times to come out, isn't there, and speak, but the problems that Spurs are having when they've got so many good players available still, just keep it in-house. You know, let Thomas Frank deal with that.
Yeah, for sure. Because Thomas Frank has obviously been asked about it. He was quite diplomatic in public. In private, would he have been fuming with his captain, you think?
I think so, yeah. I think he would have been fuming.
Does he do fuming?
He does sort of quiet fuming.
Scandinavian fuming.
Yeah, he doesn't shout and bawl, but he will drag you in there and have a word for sure. He's not.
Because you were with him for how long at Brentford? 3 years.
3 years.
How many times did he blow his top during that period?
TalkSport Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
We do headlines at 4 minutes past 11. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. Martin Keown told White and Jordan the 6-point lead is actually healthier for Arsenal, who keep getting accused of mental weakness.
If they go 9 points clear, then it's theirs to lose again. And we get all of that propaganda that is worked to try and keep this story alive.
Propaganda from who?
Well, that's what I would see it as if I was on the inside. I'm listening. I'm shutting out all the noise.
Yeah.
Get your head down, win your matches.
Man City keep the title race just about alive with that 2-1 comeback win at Anfield. Former Premier League referee Chris Foy's told us the VAR was right to disallow Cherky's third.
Irrespective of what's going on in Craig's head, he can only judge on the facts and what he sees at the screen, and he has to do his job and he has to be professional. You can't put emotion in this.
Szoboszlai will miss Liverpool's trip to Sunderland live on TalkSport on Wednesday night. Now, we understand Newcastle's Sandro Tonali would be keen to head back to Italy. Juventus are interested, as are a number of Premier League sides. With the USA's immigration officials ICE in the spotlight during the Super Bowl halftime show, Seattle Seahawks winning head coach Mike McDonald echoed Bad Bunny's message of togetherness.
We're in the business of winning football games, and to win football games, you got to be a great team. And great teams have people from all over the place that come together. That's why football is so special.
Donald Trump called the mainly Spanish-language halftime show terrible, and former England cricket coach David Lloyd says Brendan McCullum could stay on after this T20 World Cup. After all, despite England almost losing to Nepal.
His advantage will be they've just beaten Sri Lanka, which nobody tends to do, so that's eased his situation. And of course, if he gets credibility of getting to the semi-finals and maybe to the final of this T20, I think he'll be safe.
There's more on the T20 World Cup on TalkSport's Following On podcast. The Prime Minister's facing a tough day at the office as he fights to keep his job, and the Prince and Princess of Wales make their first statement over the Epstein files. More from the news team in half an hour.
TalkSport weather with QuickFit, where we've got more premium tyres than the number of times you'll hear, "Ooh, it's a bit nippy this winter." Book today at quickfit.com.
Outbreaks of rain and drizzle, heavy rain and strong winds pushing into the southwest, where there's a risk of flooding, mild in the south.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How did you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning. Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown. We are live on TalkSport, coming to you live on your TV as well. You can watch this show everywhere you go these days, even Prime Video. Wherever you want to watch us, we are there for you on your TV. And many of you yesterday down at Brighton were telling me you do exactly that. I saw Kenny there, a big Palace fan. Jim, when are you going to talk? I mean, the man beside you used to own the football club. Crystal Palace's win at Brighton. When are you going to talk about Palace? We will get to that, Kenny. It's actually Brighton fans who have a lot in their minds off the back of that one. And I spoke to lifelong fans, Ian and his mate Dave, outside the Amex yesterday. You're going to hear from them. Not happy what's going on at Brighton and not happy with the young coach there, Fabian Hürzeler. Anyway, we'll get to that. But in the meantime, with a pundit, and a damn good one, in Martin Keown in our midst, we have to get to this. When it comes to punditry, do ex-pros have a responsibility, Martin, to protect the next generation? The reason I ask, where is the line between fair criticism, unfair criticism, and clickbait? Now, Virgil van Dijk believes retired professional players need to consider the, quotes, repercussions of their criticism of younger players in the modern game. He says, I can deal with it, but I'm worried for the next generation. I feel like some of the ex-top players have a responsibility to the new generation. Criticism's normal and part of the game, but sometimes criticism goes into being clickbait, saying things to provoke things, and without thinking about the repercussions for a mental side of players, especially the younger generation who are constantly on social media. Has he got a point?
I think we have to be respectful. I think we have to choose the words carefully, and I am very conscious of getting that right, getting that balance right. I'm not looking to, if I look at it that I'm trying to form a relationship with these players and watch them develop through their careers, but I have to obviously say what I see, and there'll be moments when you might feel that what you're saying is quite cutting. I think you can find the right words, Jim, to do that. What I've never done, and I do this based on the fact that I assume things got personal for Andy Gray when he was commentating on me. It was a player that I didn't get on with, didn't like. We covered this off in the book. Simon's read the book. I felt that I wasn't listening to Sky. Never had Sky. I never had Sky as a player. Never had it at all. Didn't want to listen to it, didn't want to see it, didn't want to shut out the noise.
You don't watch me.
And my father was telling me that he is this personal. He's criticising you to such a level, it wouldn't be good for you to listen to it. So you should never get to that level. And he wouldn't be able to deny that, because I know that's we'll probably hear something again. But that's fine, it's gone.
You ever had it out?
I forgive him. I forgive him for that, because he's had his own issues, his own situation. You know that. You work with him. So, but to bring it back to the topic, so we have to be careful. Look, when I was playing the game, the likes of Barry Davis, John Motson, Barry Davis was really cutting. Like, honestly, it's always been there. You can ignore a pass, or you can say, what a terrible ball that is.
Barry Davis is a commentator.
He was. But everyone is mellowed. Everyone is now adjusted.
And listen, I can relate to what you're saying. I had various pundits observe my ownership at Palace, and I could see their bias, and I could name them if you wanted to, and I could see it, and you don't know, as a grown man, you ignore them. What Virgil van Dijk is saying is, you got to insulate young players. I'd like to know who he's talking about, which particular pundits and which particular young players they've dug out, because I don't think he's talking about young players. I think he's using young players as a framework to avoid anybody getting criticism in football, because they can only take one transaction.
Including him,
which is praise. Now, pundits are there to call it as they see it. And if it's fair observation, and it's constructive observations, and it's not based upon what Martin experienced with Andy Gray or I experienced with other people at my ownership, it's based upon the fact you're calling it as you see it. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to be a rah-rah team? These players sometimes have got too much of it. They live in an environment where they're constantly told how wonderful they are. They're constantly provided for and supported, and you have to do that because it's a difficult game at times to play at elite levels. And don't put all the rewards to one side. But unless you start confronting people with their shortcomings as well as their positives, you will not build character, you will not build resilience, you will not build leaders, and you will not build people that actually make a team.
But Van Dijk says, Simon, when you're getting bullied after a disappointing performance or receiving bad criticism, it's hard for the younger stars to ignore.
But Jim,
you dish it out, to be fair to you. You can dish it out.
We're talking about former.
Do you ever,
with respect, we're not talking about Simon here. We're talking about former players.
Do you ever think? Could I speak on that? Should a pundit ever think for a moment? I wonder if that kid. I wonder if that will affect him. What I've just said.
Depends what's being said about them. If you turn around and say that a 19-year-old kid is absolutely useless and thick and ugly, then you're getting into. If you say that's a terrible performance, he's got to get a bit more about him.
I don't see any harm in this.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, I mean, as former players, we need to be reminded every now and again. It looks very easy sat in the gantry. You know, you can all see the pass sat in the gantry. Only Dennis Bergkamp could see it on the pitch, and we forget the game looks easy. And it's all about development.
Oh yeah, but the basics.
And there are
pressures.
pressures.
The basics.
There are pressures.
No one expects everyone to operate like Pirlo or Dennis Bergkamp. It's about the basics. But people go after people for the basics. When they don't do the basics, they don't apply themselves. They don't do the basic fundamentals that it takes most decent Premier League footballers are capable of doing. That's what they go after. They don't go after people not being able to hit a 60-yard weldy, do they?
But obviously on the inside, if he's saying that on the outside, on the inside, they're obviously a bit cheesed off with what some of the former players are saying, because of constant criticism.
But again, we saw that last year, not last year, the year before in the Euros, where the media's job, put aside punditry, the media's job was totally and utterly to be cheerleaders for the England team, when what we were watching in front of us was abject, turgid crap. And you were supposed to say it was good, because if you didn't, then the players themselves went, we're being ganged up on, we're being bullied, we're being unfairly criticised, we're not being supported. You can't support something if you're not given something to support. You've got to get the balance right between being objective and fair and constructive and honest, or being a cheerleader.
Yeah, and Van Dijk, it's been a difficult year for Liverpool, hasn't it? They haven't exactly defended it with any aplomb.
I would love to know which pundits he's talking about, and which young players.
Name names. You want him to name names?
Well, be bold then. And at the same time, tell us the young players that are being criticised. Not necessarily the young players that are being affected by the bullying, but which young players he thinks are being criticised. Because I would like to know which young players are being singled out by these pundits, because he's using the young players as a shield to insulate the rest of them from what is legitimate criticism about their performance. That's what I think he's doing.
Yeah. And it's not an form approach
which goes
to
with the
protect these
territory
young
when you're
players,
playing for a wonderful
It should be the
club like
managers who should be protecting them.
Well, I'm sure they do on the inside, but
are.
you can't stop people from speaking out. We want players with personality.
But what you're telling us,
can't complain about what Van Dijk is saying.
There are certain. I mean, Gray was a co-commentator. You think he had an agenda about you?
Well, that was my perception. You can say, look, there was never any credit coming from him. Do you know?
You were looking for credit?
No, not really. Not really. I just if I did well, I was ignored. Okay. If I didn't do well, suddenly it was on me.
Is that not borderline paranoia?
No, it's a fact. It's a fact. You can ask him, Jim. You can ask him.
Okay, but let me ask you a question then. Did you value his opinion?
I expected better because...
But did you value his opinion?
Well, he was becoming like quite a distinguished co-commentator that everybody was hanging on everything he said. So it does become important. And it's like, well, okay, it's more important how I think and feel and play on the pitch. But if this is like shaping a narrative about me and pigeonholing me as a certain player, then I think it goes too far.
And that's fair enough. Okay, let's not relate it to your personal experience, but let's relate it to what Virgil van Dijk is saying, which is pundits need to be careful with young players.
And I think we're not with all players, really.
So your pundits, are you familiar with? Don't need to name anybody. Are you watching the Terror Turf pundits singing? That's a bit strong. That's too much. Those young players.
I think recently.
Is that your takeaway when you're watching other people do
I think recently, if we look at Harry Maguire, I think it's a lot.
He's not a young player.
I think a lot of people admitted that they went too far on his topic, and they were disrespectful.
This is not what Virgil asked.
But it's the topic of players.
We're talking about
Virgil van Dijk's talking about young
Yeah,
players.
but I'm talking about players in general. I don't think the respect bit stops with a young player or a senior player.
I think
we have to.
Footballers are afforded more courtesy and more respect than they've ever been afforded in their lives.
But there's more scrutiny.
And so this should be, because there's more rewards.
Scrutiny.
And it goes with the territory.
Yeah, but sometimes I think people can go too far. And actually, pundits have come out and said...
You think they went too far with Maguire?
I did, yeah. I thought they'd gone too far. I thought it was far too disrespectful. For me, he even comes back into the England thinking now. That's how much I
it wasn't actually
consider his ability.
I mean, to be honest, the irony of Harry Maguire, it wasn't actually the pundits, it was the fans. The fans went after him. His own fans were laughing and booing at him. Now, you might say that they were led by the nose by the fact that it was started by pundits having a go at him. But I actually think it was started by Harry Maguire's ridiculous post-match press interviews where he's trotted out tripe like a robot, and his performances on the field were poor. And so it all came to a perfect storm.
But it wasn't
imperfect.
But he was being blamed for their demise, and he was being blamed by former senior players whose voice is heard by, the majority of the fans. So I think it impacts. It impacts massively, and it was too much.
We'll carry on the theme of punditry, the other side of this, because maybe one question here often asked is why are male pundits on duty during women's finals? We're going to get into that very shortly.
It's just disrespectful. And how about you look at your own performances? I rate Romero. I do rate him as a defender. 5 goals this season as well. He's chipping in with his goals from centre half. But you haven't had the best of seasons. You cost your side on numerous occasions with poor defending. Just shut up and play football. Leave that to the manager to speak to the board about signings. It's none of your business. Fans will like it.
Captain.
Yeah, fans will like it. Okay, would you see an Arsenal captain come out and speak like that?
But Arsenal not in the same situation.
One of the things Thomas Frank said in that clip we just played is that Romero is ambitious. Can't have been that ambitious.
Well, he's won the World Cup.
He signed a new contract with Tottenham. If you're that ambitious, you don't do that. You back yourself to go and play for a big club. He was part of the team that finished 17th in the Premier League last year. He was described by our own Stuart Pearce as a liability in the previous meeting with Manchester United. He isn't that good a defender. I don't think he's that good a character. And I think he should have been stripped of the captaincy. This is not how a captain of a Premier League football club should be behaving.
Well, he's a Europa League winner and a World Cup final
the dog and
winner.
duck in the final.
Well, they didn't bring the dog and duck in the World Cup final, did they? They beat France. But
well, Sam,
Jimmy Traoré won the Champions League. Doesn't make him a legend of football.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Monday, the 9th of February. We're absolutely skating through the month, are we not? Just to keep that Winter Olympics theme going. Did you see what I did there? Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown live on TalkSport. We shall get to matters Manchester United, get to matters Brighton. Bit of a crisis going on down there very shortly. But I'll ask you this. What qualifies somebody to be a pundit? How much does your playing CV matter to the event that you're actually covering? Now, the reason I asked, former Lionesses striker Eni Aluko has criticised the choice of pundits used for the Women's Euro 2025 final featuring England versus Spain. She was part of ITV's punditry team for Euro 2025 but didn't work on an England game and wasn't involved in the final. She claimed last April that Ian Wright's presence had made it tougher for female pundits to get a gig in the industry. She said on Radio 4's Women's Hour last April, I've worked with Ian for a long time. And, you know, I think he's a brilliant broadcaster, but I think he's aware of just how much he's doing in the women's game. I think he should be aware of that. We need to be conscious and we need to make sure that women are not being blocked from having a pathway into broadcasting in the women's game. Now, Eni Aluko later publicly apologised to Wright, who responded by saying that he couldn't accept that apology. Now Aluko has continued the theme of this debate, talking about pundit choices for the Euro 2025 women's final. This was her speaking on the 90s Baby Show.
Last year, at the Women's Lionesses final, I'm sat in the stands, so I wasn't on ITV for the final.
Mm-hmm.
Farrah Williams was sat next to me. Farrah Williams has 170 caps for England. I think something ridiculous. Like, I think she's the most cap player. She sat in the stands. The two broadcasters that had the rights for the game, ITV, BBC. On BBC, you've got, I think it was Ellen White, Steph Horton, Nedum Noura. No offence to Nedum Noura, nothing against him. I don't know whether he played for England or not. But you're on the main panel for the final for England women. Let's go over to ITV. I'm in the stands with 105 caps. So you've got two women. Between us, we've got 290 caps, something ridiculous, right? You turn over to ITV and it's Ian Wright, Emma Hayes and Kaz Carney. So out of 6 spots on 2 of the main, you can't watch the game anywhere else. Out of 6 punditry spots, 2 have gone to men. Yeah? Meanwhile, you've got 290, whatever it is, I got sitting in the stands.
So you heard it there, Simon. Martin, out of 6 punditry spots, 2 have gone to men. Meanwhile, you've got 290 caps, whatever it is, sitting in the stands. The 2 other women that she mentioned. I mean, it boils down to, I think, really, why are male pundits on duty during women's finals? Should they be?
Well, I mean, look, I feel that Ian Wright is a really very big, respected voice in the game of football in general, and that crosses over into the women's game as well. And if they are growing an audience, Jim, there is an argument that the women's audience is a new audience. By the way, it's growing massively. That they want somebody who's a respected voice from the men's game to do that job. And Ian has been a big advocate for women's football. So I don't really see a divide for him.
But she does have a point. I mean, why is there a necessity to have male voices commentating on the women's game any more than there's a necessity to have women's voices commentating on the male game? So in my view, she has a point.
But Ian's been there from the inception, hasn't he?
And that's fine. But with due respect, Ian will also do it for his own benefits. This idea that Ian's all philanthropic about the women's game, I have my debate on that one, but notwithstanding it, he's a powerful voice that increases the awareness. So if she wants the awareness to be increased. Now, the real question is, why are there 4 other women being in these positions? And as far as she's concerned, she's not one of them. I would suggest that she's not a very good broadcaster. That might be one of the reasons why. And if you want to learn, I mean, I've had Eni, I don't dislike, I think she's quite an intelligent lady. I mean, she's qualified in law, she's nobody's fool, but some of the things that come out of her mouth are foolish. She came on this show about 2 years ago debating with me the idea that Manchester City concocted a transfer deal between sporting directors to try and get, I think it was Declan Rice, wasn't it? That Pep Guardiola was using his influence to be able to convince Arsenal to pay £100 million for Declan Rice, and it was concocted between the sporting directors. It was preposterous nonsense and had no real substance behind it, and it got some traction, and we had a debate about it. I've also listened to her in various podcasts, like the Heretics podcast, and if you want to learn anything about any, then you can just listen to that particular podcast. Her main issue is that she doesn't get things because of her colour, and she doesn't get things because of her sex, and none of it to do with the fact that she doesn't get things because she's not a particularly good broadcaster.
In your view?
In my view. In my view, I think if you listen to her, I think she's inaccurate a lot of the time that she talks about things, and I think she says things that are rather silly. But notwithstanding that, there are plenty of people that do that. So maybe when you're pointing your finger out at other people, there's four fingers pointing back at yourself. You might want to ask yourself, well, there's four women in the studios that have less caps than you, that are being deemed more qualified to speak about things. Put aside the issue about the two men out of the 6 pundits, and look at why Karen Carney, or look at why Steph Holton, or look at whoever else that she spoke about are there, and ask yourself why you are.
It's a bit unkind on them, actually, because I actually think that the Karen and Eleanor White are very good at what they do.
But she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to attack the choice.
But should Nedum Anua be commentating as a man? Should he be? I mean, obviously he's going to say yes to it because it's an offer. It's a commercial offer, and he accepts it. But should he be there, quite prominent in a pundit panel, commenting on what he sees in a women's final? Should Ian Wright have been there? Did you not? You're the punditry.
Well, many years ago, yes, when ladies football was being sort of introduced again, I was actually, I was heading that up.
Did you feel there was an eligibility issue there? Were you qualified to talk about women's football? I
actually saw it as an honour that they felt that I could come in from the men's game and just offer us something a little bit different.
So if we take these two guys out, the assumption in her mind is that she'd be a shoo-in for that position. I think she might want to have a look at her body of work and think that actually, even if there were spaces were available on those two men that were there, and I think she has a point. Why is there a necessity in women's football to have men commenting on the game?
But I think when the game develops, Simon, when it develops, I think we will see an all women.
I hope so. I hope that we see all women owners. I hope that we see all women chairmen chairpersons, because I think ultimately that's what the game requires. And that's what it should have, and that's what they should want to have. All these women that want women's football to be successful and women's sports to be successful, let's start seeing some investment from the...
There needs to be some patience. I mean, when was it introduced, professionalism? 2011? That sort of time, the WSL? So, for that side of it, the broadcasting side of it, it will be in place. You watch the highlights now on BBC, it's pretty well all women that are involved in the game, Jim, broadcasting. And by the time we get to the major tournaments in a few years' time, we've won 2 European championships now, the England national team, then rightfully so, these women will go into these positions. But once it's sort of like it's had its handheld a little bit to come into mainstream, then we've had men around the game. Ian Wright's been one of those.
Well, we talk about the success, the success of the women's international side, which far eclipses ours. So it's on its own feet now. And we talk about these broadcasters that constantly tell us how important the women's game is and constantly tell us about patronising that particular sport, the BBC being the particular flag waver for that. Why do you need men in the studio then? You don't. Patronise these women. I agree with any. My question then would be, on what basis? Because you paid 170 times for England, you can barely hold a sentence together, you should be ultimately in the studio. Is that what we're talking about?
You've got to be good at your
170 times.
Yeah, ultimately, you've got to be good at your job, haven't you? It's not what you did on the football pitch.
I think so.
Only gives you
but
so
Annie's
much
argument
life.
is it is what you did in the football pitch. Farrah Williams was sitting beside her, 170 caps for England. Something ridiculous.
Well, Farrell probably had a strong case.
And she says that she's the most capped player, and she's sat in the stands.
And now becoming an experienced and good broadcaster.
But
so
should a whole bunch of caps entitle you to automatically be considered to be part of a punditry panel?
No, because it's in the punditry world, it's how you're perceived.
It's a decent qualification.
And
it's an entrance point.
Yeah.
It's like having a resume that tells you can do a job. But once you open your mouth and you go on TV and start talking rubbish, then ultimately it forgets what you've done on the pitch. It doesn't qualify. It's like an excellent player doesn't qualify to be an excellent manager.
But
otherwise, Wayne Rooney would be a world beater of a manager.
But when you boil it behind the scenes, who decide who's that person going to be?
Of course,
it would be like reflected on how you do within the tournament. When I did the 2018 World Cup final, I was in the mix with all these other co-commentators, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we perceive that you've done the best. You're going to do the final, and that would have been the same situation. Everyone gets a fair chance to have been in place and actually showcase the final.
I mean, when it all boils down to it, people could say, well, Martin, you do Champions League games on a regular basis.
Yes.
But you've never won one.
Well, I've got to every other final, Jim, that there is.
Simon, you do a regular final. You host top boxing.
Yeah,
very, very, very successful.
Yeah.
But you've never been in the ring with your gloves laced up.
And they'd be right to do that. And so if I sat in a room and I debated with Paul Smith what it felt like to be a fighter and told him what he should have done, I should get smacked around both metaphorically and literally. But I wouldn't do that. What I'd do is frame it in such a way that I would let their expertise come to the surface, because irrespective of whether he's won a Champions League, he's been an elite footballer playing at an elite club.
Have I not played in the Champions League?
You haven't won one, is the point.
Have I not got to a quarter-final in that?
But you don't need to defend yourself.
But I know...
You don't need to defend yourself.
It's not like I'm not taking part in that sport, Jim.
If we wanted to have a conversation with you about objectivity, then we'd all pull your pants down, because there'd be none, right? But the fact of the matter is when it comes to listen to an elite footballer, you have to. It's when people that haven't done it refuse to defer to expertise. If he wants to talk to me about the attitude of players and how they train on a weekly basis, I'll defer to him to some extent. I might debate with him a bit.
Jim, if you just said, well, you've never played in the Champions League and you're going to do a Champions League final, then I'd say, you might have a point here. But I have played in that competition, so I know what that maybe means to the players.
Yeah, and as for boxing, you did stand up to Wilder the other day. So I suppose you've got an argument as well.
He didn't stand up, he sat down squarely in his seat.
We got through that unscathed at 11:30.
You don't mean that, man.
Okay, stop
man,
shouting,
let me get the out of here, bro. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Talking about my peoples and all that. It's hard to believe a black man than a white man. The cheated. Tell him to sue me so I can show the facts early. Because when the documentary and everything, the story come out, I'm going to show everything.
Fantastic.
I'm going to get all the people that know and all the people that's in the inside. He got people that the inside of him that can know. I don't, what? I don't about that.
I'm not a Fury
I don't about it. I said we didn't want to bring him up in the first place. It ain't got to do with him.
Fair enough.
The you talking about?
And with that, he was out of there. How on earth do you reflect on that? What was he going on about?
Well, look, I mean, at the time, I was a little bit embarrassed because I thought the show's coming off the rails and it was a big show and Deontay Wilder's a big name, so I'm sitting there thinking I'm a bit embarrassed by it. Then I thought, he's a bit of a tit. And then I thought, is he on drugs or something, or is this theatrics? And then I just came around to the conclusion that he's not right. He's not well.
Well, was anyone happy with Ryan Cherki's goal being disallowed for Man City? Well, former Premier League referee Chris Foy has told us the VAR was right to send Craig Pawson to the monitor.
You can't put emotion in this. It's about refereeing a football match and applying the laws of the game. Now, that might sound really boring, but he has to do his job.
Will City keep the title race alive with that 2-1 comeback win at Anfield? And Pep has called for common sense over that VAR review that disallowed Cherki's third and also saw Szoboszlai sent off.
The goal that should be allowed, because at the end, listen, nothing changed. 3-1. Szoboszlai can play next game.
Well, Szoboszlai will miss Liverpool's trip to Sunderland live on TalkSport on Wednesday night. Elsewhere, we understand Newcastle's Sandro Tonali would be keen to head back to Italy. Man United, City and Arsenal are all monitoring his availability. Juve are also interested. In the T20 World Cup, Scotland have started with a convincing 73-run win over Italy. And the Seattle Seahawks dominated the New England Patriots in a one-sided Super Bowl 60. TalkSport's NFL commentator is Will Gavin.
30 yards, and this is the play that this game truly deserves.
Loads more, as always, on the TalkSport USA YouTube channel.
It's showtime on TalkSport with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
It's that time. We're joined by Matt Gibson from BetMGM. We'll look at today's top sporting events, the odds round and about them. But of course, Matt, good morning to you. We'll talk about the Premier League as we see it right now. What are you thinking?
Yeah, good morning, fellas. Top of the Premier League. No Saka, no Odegaard. No problem for Arsenal. Martin, you must be happy with your former team there. A tricky fixture away at Ellen Road on paper, and then another tricky one against Sunderland, winning both games without conceding, looking really impressive. And then last night, it was 2-1 City. In my opinion, it should have been 3-1 City. I know what the rules say, just let the goal stand. In my opinion,
don't go there, Matt.
And then in the race for the top
no rules,
five,
no game.
In the race for the top five, a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, Liverpool losing, Villa stuttering. I don't know if you saw Luca Digne's defending or lack of for that equaliser at Bournemouth, but I'll be having serious words with him. And then United and Chelsea both winning and winning quite well as well. Odds wise, lads, Arsenal so short now. For the title, 1-5. City have come in slightly based on last night's result at 9-2. 4-1 from 9-2. Again, bookies are saying it's finished. The title race is over. I think it'll go a little bit further than that personally. But I guess the more competitive element at the top half of the table is who takes positions 3, 4, and 5, gents, because that race seems to be very much alive.
Why are the bookies, i.e. you, so certain that the title race is over, Matt?
Just from where the money's going and what purely from a trading and an odds point of view, the Arsenal are so very short. The eye test says, Man City is still very much in it. I think Arsenal have to go to the Etihad, do they? Only 6 points behind. Arsenal maybe have some tough fixtures, and don't rule out the slip up. But from a bookie's point of view, Arsenal have always led the way right from the jump this season. Whether it's been as short as 1-5, probably not, but we're certainly seeing them way ahead in the market at present.
I mean, they just protect themselves, don't they, Simon? Because the title race is very definitely not over.
Well, no, it's not over, because ultimately it's 13, 14, 15 games to go. But if you ask me who I think is going to win the league, I think Arsenal are going to win the league. And I don't think certain circumstances, I think if they were to go to the League Cup final and lose against Man City, I think it would galvanise them. If they were to win against Man City, it would cement them. So either which way, I think Arsenal takes something from that, irrespective of what the outcome is. I still think Arsenal are the best team in the league. And I think that by winning the Champions League table, or finishing top with 8 wins out of 8, and being in every single tournament, and being 6 points clear, and smashing teams around them that people are finding difficult to beat, like the Sunderlands and Leeds of the world, I think it tells you where Arsenal lost the league, and where we got called bottlers was by losing to teams like Leeds, losing to teams like Sunderland when they were playing the Southamptons and the Bournemouths and other teams of the world when they were going in on a run-in, and the West Hams and the Fulhams. They aren't losing these games anymore.
Yeah,
this is the reasons why I think Arsenal will win the league.
But Matt, is this, since the transfer window, is this a different Man City team? So Semenya, I mean, he can't stop scoring, can he, Semenya? Gahey's come in and really bolstered that defence. He's made quite a few changes. I mean, Foden wasn't even featuring yesterday. I mean, it was a case, wasn't it, when they tried to make changes in the Champions League and they just got beat hands down because the squad didn't appear to be strong enough. But all of a sudden now the City squad is a little bit stronger. Conversely, Matt, you saw in the flesh, I imagine you were at the game, weren't you, when Arsenal beat Leeds, your beloved Leeds team, 4-0.
Thanks for bringing it
up close, and what did you feel? Were you looking at a team that you thought, better than anything we've seen here this season, or did you think Arsenal were lucky?
Yeah, talk about squad depth.
Be cheeky to him, Matt.
Undoubtedly, City signing Mark Gay is a good acquisition, right? But looking at the subs that they had warming up at Ellen Road the other day, they had Jesus, Martinelli, Eze warming up. I would argue that those guys are worth over 200 million quid between them. They would get in pretty much any other starting lineup. Ben White, we know Ben White really well from his time at Leeds. Fantastic player, can play right back, can play centre back. He's coming off the bench for you guys. So I just think in terms of Arsenal squad depth, even though City have had a decent window acquiring Semenyo and Gay, I still think Arsenal squad depth is superior to anything domestically and probably in Europe.
Okay, do you want to take us to the bottom of the Premier League, Matt? Where are you going with it?
Yeah, I mean, Friday night was it went as planned, which was really great. I thought Forest, they struggled, I think, because of unavailabilities. I was listening to actually TalkSport on the way home from the ground, and there's a few Cross Forest fans on the phone, starting a centre back at right back, starting a right back at left back, having a second choice centre half because Murillo was injured, and having a new goalkeeper. So they're a bit all at sea at the back. And to be fair, Leeds were pretty good for the win. Elsewhere, West Ham 4-4. West Ham or unbeaten in 4 on a bit of an upward. 3 wins from 4. Crescencio Somerville finding his shooting boots, which is really good for them. And then Simon, what a great time for Palace to break the duck, especially against that opposition. I think it was a win that was greatly needed, and probably all the more sweeter being at Brighton to really lift you guys out of that relegation picture. You were 9-1 for the drop this time last week. Now at 16-1, so a huge shift in the prices.
Matt, who's going down, fella? Who's going to go down in this epic battle at the bottom of the table?
I still think West Ham have got a lot to do. We play Chelsea tomorrow at the Bridge. I don't think we'll get anything from that. Forest play Wolves, so you think Forest will go upside us on 29. West Ham play the informed, turned around, whatever word you want to use about Man United. So I think the table will be tomorrow or Wednesday morning. The table will be Forest and Leeds on 29, and West Ham still on 23, 6 points adrift.
Yeah, Martin and Simon, I'll ask both of you. Out of Forest, Leeds and Spurs, who's at most risk of being hooked in by a West Ham revival, if indeed we see one?
Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think Leeds are a good side, and I think Calvert-Lewin has hit a purple patch. They've got belief. The manager's got control of the circumstances. No dissenting voices about what he's doing unless Matt tells me something different. They're winning games. The problem for Leeds is they've drawn too many games, or they'll be up and away. But I don't think Leeds are going to get dragged in any further than they already are in there. I think Spurs will correct. They've got, you can't get out of a Champions League group, and the way that they've got out of a Champions League group and not be able to compete in the Premier League, and they'll correct that one way or t'other. So I think it's Forest because of proximity now.
Do you know what? Obviously, you talk about pundits. Talked a lot about pundits and what work do they do. As you can see here in the list of fixtures that I've put up here and was looking at to the wee small hours of last night.
That's fabulous preparatory work.
And what I'll say is that
that's
by virtue of the fact that West Ham, because I think Forest have got to play some of their near neighbours around them, so they've got to play 4 teams from the bottom part of the table. They've probably got the fewest West Ham, and I see that West Ham will have the most. If they can get out of this, it's a miracle, because Sean Dyche puts it together. When you look at it overall since he's been there, he doesn't go from game to game, but you look overall, he's done all right. So I expect Forest to pull out of trouble, when West Ham have been quite remarkable. They are Somerville at the moment what a different player he is, right?
I'm surprised neither of you.
So it's going to be interesting.
More though.
It's going to be interesting.
Two wins in 60.
But Jim, they have a chance to play Forest, they play Brighton, they play Wolves, they play Leeds. Spurs have all these teams. Their destiny's in their own hand. Just one win there takes them away.
So who do you think, the question was, who do you think gets pulled into it, or do you think nobody gets pulled into it?
Well, I think West Ham don't get out.
You think it's West Ham, Burnley,
I don't think. I may be wrong, but I'll tell you what, they're making a good fist of it.
Okay. I didn't really want to talk about the Six Nations, but we will. Forza Italia. Well done to Italy against it. I know you told me. But where are we going with this? England steamrolled the Welsh. Poor old Wales can't win a game for love nor money, can they?
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it very quickly, Jim.
Thank you.
Markets out there, and Scotland are 8-1. Still a bigger price than Italy to finish dead last. Wales
for that.
Wales odds on for that, but I think the bookies have got this one bang on. Where I think the Premier League title were probably a little bit short on Arsenal, but it's all heading to a France-England shootout in the last round of fixtures. I thought for the first hour or so, France were superb against the Irish. England did what they needed to do and what a lot of people expected them to do against Wales, and obviously the Scots come unstuck. I'll be at Murrayfield Saturday, Jim, with my England shirt on, hoping that England can do the business. They are 3-10. Scotland a big price, 11-5 for the upset. They are quite good at home, aren't they? Recent Calcutta Cups at Murrayfield, I think, are probably in favour.
Basically own it.
In favour of the Scots.
You need it to be raining, Jim. There's a chance of that.
Yeah. We're not talking
yeah,
about
but
cricket.
I think it's all roads leads to that France-England shootout for the Grand Slam last game of the Six Nations. I think.
With all due respect,
God, we fast.
Are you taking England beating Scotland at Murrayfield as a given?
No, because in recent form, you've seen that the Scots, and you've dined out on it, keep on winning the Calcutta Cup. But the progress in the England team has been quite significant in the last 6 months. So on current form and in the direction of travel, you would expect England to go up there, not as a gimme. If they don't go up there, then it undermines all the progress they've made. They need to go up there and win this game because it cements the development of the England side. They should beat Wales. I mean, Wales were getting players flung in the sin bin as quick as they possibly could.
Yeah.
So they had real opportunities to cement the score that they put on that game. But I expect them to beat Scotland, but I don't think it's a gimme just because you and I have banter about how useless Scotland are at most things.
The Scottish enjoy, though, being the underdog, don't they, Jim?
Very much so.
Yeah,
that's when we're
nothing to lose.
That's when we're at our most dangerous. We tell ourselves. Matt, thank you. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. BeGamblerAware.org.
It's showtime on TalkSport with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+. GambleAware.org.
There's so many twists and turns in this. When you've been on this road, right? Now, look, there are certain people who were at that game yesterday, former Manchester United players who won this thing many, many times. I've won it as well. And you have to shut out the noise. It's about what you do, not what the opposition do. And, of course, it would have been handy if it had gone 9 points clear. But the fact that it didn't happen, Arsenal are not derailed by that. I actually saw a lot from Arsenal at the weekend that makes me think, actually, do you know what? They could go the distance. But this is the life. When you're trying to lead, when you're trying to be a prospective champion, Jim, there are twists and turns. You stay calm and you stay confident and you go to the next game. Arsenal play Brentford now. Now, for those people, the neutrals that were, I mean, by the way, Sunderland gave everything at the weekend. So nobody was like, it wasn't an easy gimme for Arsenal. Brentford now is another very difficult game for Arsenal.
Of course,
as it would have been if they would have been 9 points clear.
They're all difficult games. We know that. Psychologically, might this be bigger for Manchester City, though, Simon, than it is for Arsenal?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with Arsenal. Arsenal don't need to worry about what Man City are doing. The only time Arsenal need to worry about what Man City are doing.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. I'm taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion?
That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
It is Jim White, and Martin Keown and Simon Jordan. We're all live in TalkSport, courtesy of Selco. Where the trade goes. Going to get to Brighton, where Brighton are at the moment. Not in a very healthy spot after losing at home yesterday to Crystal Palace. In the meantime, having spoken about the Six Nations and the events of the weekend, we'll carry on with that because I'm delighted to say, facing the music is former Wales international Alex Cuthbert, a good friend of our show. Alex, good morning. The poor old Welsh, 48-7, Alex. Hammered by England, but it's just the statistics. Like when we look at them, we can hardly believe them. Wales have lost their previous 12 Six Nations internationals. Overall, they've faced a run of 22 Test defeats in 24 internationals since the end of 2023. How on earth are they going to right this, Alex? Where do you begin?
Morning, guys.
Hi, mate.
What was the Scotland score on the weekend as well? No.
I know. I mean, I've got to take it in the chin with them.
Yeah, mate. We are in a really, really tough spot at the moment. Not just obviously on the field, but probably more off the field in terms of what's going on into whether the Ospreys are surviving. I think it's really the sort of staying players that's in their minds. But I think the crux of it, mate, I think this group of players, they're at their ceiling. I think that's just where we are. They were 11th in the world for a reason. We're playing a team like England on the weekend who are third, possibly even second in the world. So that golf, it just showed. And I think that's the quality that we have at the moment. That first 40 minutes from England, they were good. They were very good. But I think a lot of it was Wales made them look good, really, in terms of they lost the kicking battle, the physicality. They got absolutely smashed off the park. When they did have an opportunity, Wales, they couldn't do the fundamentals well, win the line out.
Yeah.
Quick tap properly,
Yeah.
All these little things add up, and it was all in England's favour yesterday on the weekend.
Have you seen any difference made by the Wales coach Steve Tandy? I mean, it's his first Six Nations in charge. He was part of the Scottish setup. Get in quick before Simon does. Have you seen any difference there, Alex?
There were little shoots, obviously, in the autumn, but I didn't see any on the weekend. I think that there's so many problems in all parts of the game, whether it's defence, attack, the breakdown, the physicality. We're not winning the line out and scrum. I thought the biggest mistake they made was not getting a defence coach in, albeit Steve Tandy is a defence coach, but he's head coach. They needed to get someone in to be that defence coach. Shipping 50, 70, 60 points in the autumn, that would have been the biggest work on for me coming into this campaign. And what I hear about is the environment's amazing. But when the environments are amazing, are the boys actually getting tested? Are they uncomfortable? It feels like they love it. They're like, yeah, really good. But you want to be tested in those environments. At the moment, it just feels a little bit too comfortable for me.
I want to ask Alex, and it's difficult for him being a proud Welshman, Simon. When will we ever see Wales back to the days of Barry John, Gareth?
Well, the question has to be, why is there such a decline? I mean, we hear things about, we see the ascension of Welsh football, in terms of the Welsh national side has got better at football because it was hid behind the light of the Welsh rugby boys. We see things like banning the song Delilah because it offends people. I spent some time talking to Warren Gatland when they were preparing for the last World Cup, and I found him to be quite an inspiring character, but he couldn't get a tune out of them. Why has it got to the point where you guys can't beat a rug?
You still with us, Alex?
Yeah. I think the crux of it is that obviously the buck stops at the WRU. So the WRU, over the years, I think it was around about 2015, that we used to have a national academy. So we used to have a number of players from the under 18s, 19s, 20s, all identified early on, then to obviously go into regional rugby. But this national academy was the bridge to, I guess, the top level tier in terms of club and then country. At the moment, we have no national academy. We're going to lose a region, so we're only going to 3 teams. So these lads playing 18, 19s, 20s, they're coming out of under 20s and expected to play first-class rugby straight away. They're not ready. The gap is too big a quality, especially with the lights, especially with the regions at the moment in Wales. We're the bottom of the league. We have been for a number of years. And that money, I think, it probably papered over the cracks of us doing so well in that period from 2005 to 2021. was not used in the right areas.
Yeah.
So our school systems are struggling. We're not having,
the knock-on effects, if you like.
Kids.
Yeah.
Alex, is that academy, Alex?
Yeah.
Is that disappeared for what? Lack of funding, lack of people just don't want to play rugby. They want to play football now. Is it moving away from your sort of national sport? What's the real reason?
Yeah, I think football is become a bit of a bit of a problem, I guess, in terms of how big it is on social media. These football guys are stars, and I think football's so much more accessible early on in a lot of these kids' careers rather than say rugby. Football you can just get 2 jumpers and a ball, whereas rugby it's a little bit more technical in terms of wanting to want to play the game and have that culture. I think we've lost that definitely in our school system. But the money, those national academies, what happened is they had to use that money then to pay the boys of the success more money to keep them in Wales. Which is why they put this cap of 25 caps to play for Wales. You have to stay in, to play for Wales. So, and then they haven't replaced that national academy, and then they're expecting these young lads to just come out of under 20s, play regional rugby against, superstars like the Leinsters and all the big South African teams that we have to do, and then straight into the international and expect them to succeed. And Warren Gatland got left with a group of players where we all retired at the same time after our success, where a load of young players where experience is absolutely everything in international rugby. You know it from experience, Martin, in terms of how long you're in the game of football. It's everything. And when you don't have that, and you don't have a sprinkle of experience and youngsters, it's a recipe for disaster. And
Alex,
hence why we've lost 22 games.
Let's help you here and get you off the subject of Wales very briefly. And certainly let's go nowhere near Scotland's performance in Italy. So let's talk about who might win the Six Nations outright. Is it down to England, France? And if of the two of them, who do you pick?
Well, for me, quickly, I think France. I thought we saw a lot more of the quality. I think they're obviously favourites. As good as England were, I don't think we can read in too much to play. They played Wales, who are 11th in the world. I don't think we're going to get too much out of that. That French team looked very, very solid. I saw a few weaknesses in terms of just their mindset. French, they do seem to switch off in games, and England, they did as well in the second half. It's going to come down to that last game. It really is. I think those two teams are so far above everyone else. The gap between the top 3 teams in the world and the rest is just growing with the way the game is played. You need 23, 30 world-class players now, and squad depth is everything. And the other nations don't have that at the moment.
Yeah. And Alex, Scotland, England, very briefly, at Murrayfield. Humour me.
Yep.
What do you think?
You've won before. So
yes. Carry on, Alex. Finish your sentence.
It's not a foregone conclusion, but I think if there's a lot of pressure on Gregor Townsend, really is. I think the expectation of Scotland with that team is to win anything, but they haven't come better than 3rd. So I've been pretty critical of Scotland. So for me, I think it'd be a tough ask for them to beat England the way they're performing. The young talent they've got coming through, they've got that fear factor. I just want to see for England now that consistency throughout the tournament, and I think they'll probably have that showdown with France, which will be unbelievable in Paris.
Good. Get off, Alex. Thank you. No, I'm joking. Alex, thank you very much indeed. I think it's going to be tough for the Scots at Murrayfield, but we'll look at it in its true light post-match and see it.
I think you're going to get a good pumping.
Thanks for that.
Look forward to it.
That's very kind of you. It's 12 noon.
If we look at the bottom of the table, we're looking at one spot. Do you believe that everybody up to and including Tottenham are in it?
Oh, without doubt. Absolutely. I would even take a step further and say Brighton and Palace will be all right, but I think they need a couple of victories, and the sooner they get them, the better. I thought that was a big result for Palace.
Yeah, Darren, who's a Palace fan, has texted this, and morning, gents. As a Palace fan, I got to say, I really don't think...
TalkSport Sports Update, powered by the Nissan van range. Scoring a winning hat-trick of performance, payload and price. Search Nissan vans or head to your local Nissan van centre.
With your headlines at 2 minutes past 12, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. Martin Keown's told White and Jordan a 6-point lead is actually better for Arsenal right now than a 9-point one, as it'll stop people saying the title is theirs to lose. And Mr. Keown says if Spurs want to change the culture at their club, stop playing Cristian Romero.
Now, I know it's a big commodity and it's a gamble, but it's a change of direction and a change of culture, because I would say if you see this on the outside, on the inside it's even worse. On the inside, his behaviour around the players is not good for the next generation.
Romero is now serving a 3-match ban. He was sent off 6 days after complaining Spurs don't have enough players. They're home to Newcastle, live on TalkSport 2 tomorrow night, where we're hearing Sandro Tonali would be up for heading home to Italy. Juventus are keen. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe's again insisted he is the right man to take Newcastle forward.
There's no doubt in my mind, and that's why I'm sat here, because, as I said, the club's the most important thing. So I'd never put myself before the club if I didn't think I was the correct man to take the team forward and I could give the players what they need.
Now, former Premier League ref Chris Foy tells us VAR just did its job in disallowing Cherki's third during Man City's win at Anfield.
There are situations where VAR has to recommend a review because the referee on field has made an error. And I get the emotion. You know, I was enthralled by that game and it does its job. And as I said, it sounds boring, it sounds tedious, but they have a job to do.
The review means Szoboszlai misses Liverpool's game at Sunderland, live on TalkSport on Wednesday night. And we understand Watford are set to appoint Edward Still, Will's brother, as their new head coach. Javi Gracia left at the start of February. More on this at TalkSport.com.
TalkSport News.
The Prime Minister loses another top member of staff, and William and Kate speak out about the Epstein files. More from the news team in half an hour.
TalkSport weather with QuickFit. Whatever the winter weather, Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres. Guaranteed for 25,000 miles. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Outbreaks of rain and drizzle, heavy rain and strong winds pushing into the southwest. There's a risk of flooding there, mild in the south.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is now officially Monday afternoon. Thanks for being with us. Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown. We're live on TalkSport, live on your TV as well. Thanks, everybody, for all the messages, the texts and the tweets that you send in to this show on a daily basis, because it's all about your participation on the show with us. That's what we want. I tell you what Brighton fans want at the moment. They want a win. One league win in their last 12 games for Fabian Hürzeler, and they now sit 14th in the league. It has gone wrong somewhat for Brighton. After years of being seen as a model club, is the Brighton bubble beginning to burst? And what do you know? They lose at home yesterday, and I was there to see it, against, of all people, their great rivals Crystal Palace, who beat a lacklustre Brighton, it has to be said, by a single goal to nil to pull themselves clear of the relegation picture. Now, we'll hear from Fabian Hürzeler, who's a man under pressure, in a second. But when you sit with some of the Brighton supporters, and they are good fans, I have to stress that. I really like what I hear and see whenever I'm down at the Amex. And I sat in a hospitality suite yesterday with some really solid supporters. And I spoke to two of them at the end of the game, Ian and Dave, who gave me their take on what they'd just seen.
It was send a glass eye to sleep, that game, and it was just awful. And we expect more. I know you have to be, you can't become entitled as a football fan, but we all pay very good money to come here, And to quote the words of Russell Crowe, we want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And we weren't entertained.
You feel the same, Dave?
Yeah, well, my perspective on it is that for what is classed as our biggest game of the season, the derby, as some people call it, it was an insipid, disjointed performance. And when the fans turn on the manager, and as much as I was saying to Harty the other day, be careful what you wish for, I think the time is up for Fabian, unfortunately. The team looks shell-shocked. We haven't picked up enough points over the last 2 months. We could have gone third if we'd beaten Villa back in November. And now we're looking at the bottom of the table thinking, where's our next point coming from?
And you think it's time up now for Hurstler?
Yeah,
not the end of the season, but now?
Now. I mean, I think ideally you'd like to pull the plug during the transfer window to give a new manager a chance to get his own players in. A new manager coming in now will have to deal with what is there. And it's going to be a difficult job to pick up those players because, as I said, they look shell-shocked.
I mean, it's strong words. Do you feel the same, Ian?
In April 1992, I wanted Neil Kinnock to win the general election, but he wasn't up to it. I wanted Fabian Hurstler to succeed at this football club, and like Neil Kinnock, he wasn't up to it.
Couple of lifelong Brighton fans, Ian Hart and his chum Dave, speaking to me yesterday. Under Hurstler, Brighton have spent £310 million across 4 transfer windows. And Brighton, remember, finished 8th last season. But yesterday I heard it, and the rest of them heard it. Fabian Hurstler, you're getting sacked in the morning. And that was put to Hurstler himself post-match.
I think it's football, and I have to accept that the emotions are a part of the game. I just can say that I'm fully committed to this club, that I try my best together with my players, that I try my best together with the staff, and I will face it because I'm responsible for that, but I'm also there to find solutions, and I take the ownership for this, and I will keep going and finding solutions together with the team.
Now, Simon, you'll no doubt tell me, in as much as you care, because it is Brighton, is the Brighton bubble beginning to burst?
Like you said, I mean, I'm going to dig deep for the objectivity for me not to wish for the long and lasting demise of Brighton. Look, I mean, I know Paul Barber had high expectations of this manager. And obviously last year you saw things from him as a young manager that illustrated that he has a lot of capability. Their form is not great at this moment in time. It's not tragic. They just knocked Man United out of the FA Cup 3 weeks ago. They've gotten draws recently against other sides that some people would say were good points. Losing against Crystal Palace is not something they're unfamiliar with. They have lost against Palace in the same way the Palace have lost against Brighton. There has been some turgid derbies between these two sides over the last 5 or 6 years. They've not all been wonderful bar-storming games, so let's not lose sight of it. If the fans have gone on the manager, they've gone on the manager. The more interesting thing for me would be whether Tony Bloom and Paul Barber have gone on the manager, because I know that they were very keen on him. I know that Paul spoke very highly of him and his motivation, and how this young manager was absolutely, neck deep in every aspect of Brighton, and his coaching team, I think, all lived in the same complex with him, and they were all really focused on the outcome. Football fans are very fickle about what they're prepared to tolerate, and I accept that. It goes with the territory. That's what's the nature of the business. So managers have got to accept it too. I'm not sure that that they'll replace him just yet. Because A, it's very easy to say you want to replace someone. B, it's not so easy to get it done. I think Tony Bloom and Paul Barber should be given as much currency and as much time as they want to make a decision, because they're the ones that have been the architects behind so much of the success that Brighton have had, so much of the success that the fans have enjoyed, from Tony catapulting this club from where they were to where they are now, to the managerial appointments, to the fact that ultimately they produced this wonderful academy. But you cannot pillage everything. You cannot take consistently. Southampton had it done to them in the past, where all their best players had this wonderful academy producing Theo Walcott, Gareth Bale, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and on and on and on. And you saw Lallana, and you saw other players that were constantly being taken by the Virgil van Dijk, other players that were bought by the bigger clubs. So now what happens is Chelsea have pillaged Brighton for, some people would say, good luck to them. They've taken our sporting directors. We didn't want them anyway. I think that's nonsense. They've taken their managers. They've taken their best players. And somewhere along the line, it's very difficult to keep recreating the opportunity to have elite players. Matoma's not done much this season. They haven't done the things that you would expect of them. But I do think there's still some legs left in this young manager, and I think he should be given just a little bit more breathing space to see if he can correct it. Because, with due respect, they have punched constantly above their weight. And it does become a point where punching above your weight cannot be continuing ad infinitum if you are then selling all your best players that helps you punch above your weight.
So you're giving them a bit of headroom yet?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
If you're the chairman, then you'd be concerned.
Yeah, of course I would.
Because I actually think their home record as well, Jim, has been really quite poor recently. They've not been able to win. I think the only recent win is Burnley.
Yeah.
So but there's no doubt about it that there is something about this manager where you think, okay, bright young manager, he's coming in. He has though got. I think that they should be performing better than they are, Jim, because he has got really good players around him, and there is constant tinkering to the team. I know that Welbeck is maybe getting on in years, but they've now changed. Belieber's had a maybe not the season you would expect it to have had. So it is a little bit of a mystery. But I mean, they've worked with enough good managers at that football club.
But the difference here, Martin, I found yesterday was that these fans who support the club through thick and thin and have done, because these supporters like Ian, who I spoke to, and like Dave, who I spoke to, they know, Simon, where the club has come from.
Yeah.
And as you always say, where
it belongs, in my view, yeah.
A little hut in some car park, as you jokingly say.
It was.
But this is where they've got to, and not that long ago they were in Europe for the first time. So something's got to change, and these are die-hard, good Brighton fans who are saying, this guy should be sacked in the morning.
Maybe, but I mean, it is always, and it will always be, well, what have you done for me lately? And so you can remind yourself of the journey. You can make yourself pinch yourself to remember the fact that ultimately, once upon a time, you were at the Goldstown ground, and then you were at with Dean Grange, and it was a scout hut as a boardroom and a constructed stadium that wasn't even a stadium; it was just a set of chairs. And so you can't live in that space forever, otherwise you'll never progress. So they're perfectly right to say, well, that was then, but what about now?
But pretty quickly they've turned on Hursuler now.
Well, they
like the guy a lot,
but
now they're really not having him.
But if you look at the currency of the climate we live in, people have so little tolerance now. I think post-COVID, the world's changed. I think people have a very different way of looking at things, and football fans are just the same as everybody else. And now what happens is that there is no temperance, no tolerance, no latitude given to anybody. Get on with it. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, good, actually, because I've always been in that camp of saying you lot get away with it far too often.
That's nasty.
But no, I don't mean individually. I don't want it to be done to him personally. But what I'm saying is that the ultimate orthodoxy was you've got to keep managers. So they can keep on getting it wrong. Oh, yes, but the stability side of things, well, they can keep on being poor. And that's your argument, is it? Oh, no, they need more time. Well, if someone's going the wrong way, they're going the wrong way. It's about how quickly you allow them to go the wrong way. If you're going to fail, in my view,
well, they're only 8 points.
Quickly.
They're only 8 points out of the bottom three. So, you are looking over your shoulder.
How many are away from the top
particularly when you look at it in their next games, Aston Villa
away,
Liverpool and Brentford away, which is going...
And Brentford away.
Yeah. So
the three games there, Martin, how many of the three did they win?
Well, at the moment, they are capable of pulling something out with the quality that they have. Matoma that they've got. Are
they?
I think he's gone backwards a little bit.
The boil at the
he's
moment.
gone backwards a little bit. And why? That would be more of a question mark for me. You're trying to develop these players.
Yeah.
Brighton won't go down. There's no, but in the distance they have Arsenal to play as well, Jim, and Sunderland, who I thought were excellent the weekend. So there's no easy games here for them.
There was a bit of apprehension there yesterday about where they might end up at the end of the season.
Well, they're 8 points off 6 spots as well, but we won't play that one out because the 8 points off relegation is the more challenging.
You want them to survive, don't you? You want them to flourish.
No,
really.
I want them to be relegated.
Because you love the story. No, you don't.
Yes,
you
I
love
do.
the Brighton story. Do you not?
No, I admire Tony Bloom, and I've got a lot of respect for Paul Barber, but I have zero respect for Brighton Football Club.
But do the owners?
You honestly want them relegated?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like Brighton. I don't like their fans very much. I got subjected to lots of abuse from their fans on the rare occasions.
And yesterday they're all asking me, where's Simon? Is he not with you, Jim? Is he not with you? They're all being so nice about you
not
yesterday.
If you tied my tongue to the back of a bus, dragged me there and paid me for being there when I go and watch Brighton
I'll volunteer to do that and then just not take you there.
No, I'm honest.
All right.
I have no affection for Brighton whatsoever.
But it is a mystery, Jim, how they don't... They seem to have a manager. They're very close, Brighton, to getting there.
Yeah.
He's been in some very good positions this season to go on and go into the top four even.
Right.
And now they're slipping away. Can this manager find the winning formula he needs?
Let's hope he does. I, for one, hope that he does. Brighton by the sea. Because I like them. And I don't like you. It's 12:15.
all for the hard yards, and I don't think getting rid of Aubameyang was the same comparison because Arsenal didn't miss him and didn't lose anything as a result.
They did. That season he went to Barcelona and scored a hatful of goals. They made the Champions League. Arsenal didn't win the Champions League, but their future was to be a better one.
Everybody knew
there has to be a sacrifice
here. Everybody that sat in the studio, and me and Jim being included, forecast that Aubameyang would lift the leg when he went to Barcelona. We all knew it because he'd go and do it in spurts. What he was doing was creating a polluted environment inside the dressing room that was relatively solidified in certain ways with a new manager.
Impressionable young players.
This is a different dressing room. Now, I don't disagree. The harder yards are that you take control of a situation. So let's get it right. Arteta was being supported by his board. He was supported by his board in the Aubameyang decision. You've got a group of people that didn't employ Thomas Frank, that are not entirely sure about Thomas Frank's future. So he's going to go to them and say, the player that you just signed a 4-year contract on, that we've made captain, I'm going to jettison him.
You're suggesting that, son. You wholeheartedly, they gave Thomas Frank the job.
No, they didn't.
Well, why not? How are you saying this? Do you have inside information that we don't have then?
Yes, I do. Because Daniel Levy and self-evident information.
He's not there anymore, is he? So what's he going to do?
So my point don't be so bloody stupid then. Daniel Levy's not there and neither is Paratici. They were the two.
So he's exposed now because he's gone?
Yes, I do. I think he's absolutely got no allies there.
Well, maybe he's better off without him.
Well, that's a different argument.
Because maybe that person was also...
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Moving along this Monday lunchtime, Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown live on TalkSport, live on your TV as well. If you want to watch the show, you can. We're watching everybody with interest at the moment because it's a key time in the Premier League. All times are important, but this is a key moment in the Premier League, it seems to me, with Manchester City doing what they did yesterday at Liverpool. Arsenal continuing to motor along well, but it's not done yet, not by a long way, nor is it done at the bottom of the table, nor is it done for those trying to push for Europe. And talking about that, Brentford continue a theme of punching above their weight as they scored a late winner to beat Newcastle 3-2, and quite a lot of Bees fans getting in touch with me this lunchtime. How about our performance and our result up in the northeast? You're right, Simon, we've got to look at it. Did anyone see Keith Andrews bettering Thomas Frank at Brentford? Did you, Simon? Did you, Martin?
No, not at all. Because it looked like he'd almost come from this punditry world we've talked about so much today, and he's gone straight into a top job. Thomas Frank clearly saw something in him. I think he has benefited from that body of work that Thomas Frank put in place. Thiago, the player that's scoring all the goals, has been remarkable. He had a difficult time. He was there quite a while, wasn't it? At the football club, he was injured and he's come in. Ironically, Visa playing for Newcastle wasn't at the same level. Ouattara, playing in a wide position, looked fantastic. Really, they couldn't handle him. And to go there to win in the manner that they did was really impressive.
I mean, Simon, 7th, 5 points off Manchester United in 4th.
Level with Liverpool.
So, they're looking good at the moment to better some of Thomas's Premier League finishes, which were 13th, 9th, 16th, 10th. You'd never have thought that at the start of the season.
Well, I didn't give thought whether he'd eclipse Thomas Frank's achievements and attainment, but what I did say was that I had no concerns about the appointment as others were expressing, because I think Matthew Benham and those at Brentford and to some degree Brighton very rarely make mistakes. They don't take punts. They know why they were appointing him. It was those that were uninformed that were sitting there saying, he's a set-piece coach. He doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. He hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. And that ignored the fact that Matthew Benham and the thinking behind how they buy players, how they sell players. The appointment of Thomas Frank came with a bit of eyebrow raising, because obviously Dean Smith had taken them to a certain level and Thomas Frank came in and there wasn't much awareness of him. Now Keith Andrews has gone in there at the same time as losing a lot of his best players, his captain, one of his talisman in Mbeumo, and one other player, and the centre forward that went to Newcastle. Right. So all of those came into play. He's managed to get a spirit around the club and get together.
I think Henderson was a really important signing. As much as we talk about Granit Xhaka.
Yeah. Did he play on
a free transfer?
He didn't play on the weekend, though, did he?
Yeah, Henderson was there.
He's been almost ever present.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's hats off to Keith Andrews and Brentford. It really is. And Keith, I keep in touch with him quite a lot. I used to work with him at Sky. And sooner or later, we will have Keith on this show. Of that, there is no doubt. But it does beg a question. Newcastle fans, where are you going at the moment? A third successive defeat and a run of 1 win in 8. And everybody loves Eddie Howe, of course they do. But Eddie is looking at himself right now. That is for sure.
I always feel under pressure. It's irrelevant to me. The type of pressure. I think when you're in this job, you're always in that moment. Whether it's pressure to win and keep winning, or whether it's pressure to turn around results, we're very much in that feeling. I've always say that the pressure I put on myself couldn't be more extreme, because I demand really high standards from what I'm doing, how I work, what I ask the players to do. I'm obviously not doing my job well enough at the moment.
What about the final point there, Martin? I have to do much better. I'm obviously not doing my job well enough at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's been very honest. I think maybe some of the purchases in the summer, like Elanga, Ramsey, taken far too long to settle. The Isak situation obviously affected both football clubs, didn't it? We've talked about this before. Finding a solution at the top of the team, Jim. They're very much a counter-attacking team, so they need that pace down the middle, and they've often been found wanting. I think they've been stretched with the number of games they've got. Obviously with the Champions League, they have to play with energy. When they play these games, there's been a lot. They have to dig deep. And it seems that when some days they've got it and other days they haven't. They were exploited at the weekend. Another big game coming up against Tottenham next. Aston Villa in the FA Cup. They're coming thick and fast, and Eddie's going to have to turn this around.
It's interesting, Simon. He's taking all the blame on himself at the moment. He's putting a lot of it on himself. You're not hearing any sack the board routine up at St James's Park. In fact, there seems to be next to no comment coming of a nasty nature directed towards those at the top of the football club. And only last week, we spoke to the Chief Executive, David Hopkinson, when we were up at St James's Park, who was telling us about just how much behind they are, Eddie.
Eddie's been a phenomenal partner to me since the day I met him. He certainly seems like a man very focused on what he's doing at Newcastle. His work rate is incredible. I really like the partnership that I have with him, that Ross has with him. So Eddie consistently indicates to us how happy he is here. Again, I see someone operating with high conviction. And look, I'm someone who, I pay a lot of attention to what people say, but I pay even more attention to what they do. And I see someone very leaned in and very focused. Eddie's not in the room, but I know Eddie is 100% devoted to what's going to happen tonight in Manchester. And I'm really happy with the job Eddie.
What is Eddie's remit this season, David?
To maximize the potential of the squad he's got.
So when it comes down to it, Simon, do you think Hopkinson and the rest, if it doesn't go to plan this point onwards for Eddie, and it turns into a completely indifferent season, he'll be afforded that? That was a season, that was an off one. All right, we'll let that go.
Well, they're still in the Champions League, haven't they? So they've got their qualifying game against Karabakh, which you'd expect them to come through.
Right.
So they're going to the knockout stages. So the revenue comes in for next year, which gives them an opportunity to push forward as a side. I mean, they have changed personnel. I don't think either centre forwards worked out particularly well. One came in and got injured, and one's is a completely different sort of player. They lost Isak and replaced him with someone that there's been a lot of commentary around about how much was paid for him and so on and so forth. So they had to change the style of play. I think that Eddie has still some legs in him. I maintain the view that the expectation of Newcastle against the reality of what they're going to be able to achieve is probably two different things. People have got the ownership confused with the opportunity, and the opportunity is denied by the structure of the game. They cannot do what that chief executive has just told you. They cannot do it unless there's going to be a change of governance, because how are they going to be able to compete with those that can spend the kind of money that enables you to build an elite side? You can build an honest and decent and attacking side that's got potential attached to it, but when it comes to the business end, when you're going to win things, how are Newcastle going to beat the other sides when they can't compete with them on a like-for-like basis?
And it's interesting, when they won the League Cup last year, you kind of meet the needs of the Tonalis and those sorts of players, and you keep them at the club. If you slip down a little bit, you don't make Champions League next year, it becomes harder to try and keep some of these players.
That takes me very nicely to it. Does Tonali not owe Newcastle, after everything that happened with him, does he not owe Newcastle a bit more? And yet, the agent of Sandro Tonali, Beppe Ariso, has told Tuttosport that he's discussed the future of Tonali after reports that he was offered to Arsenal in January. Riso said, Newcastle are having a hard time letting go of Sandro, and he wants to lead the club to the Champions League. We'll evaluate and decide what to do in the summer. We'll see how the season ends, and then we'll decide what to do. Hopkinson touched on matters at Sandro Tonali last week. He said that he joined us and we got onto the topic of Sandro Tonali. And I asked CEO David Hopkinson about the future of the Italian and if it was true that the player was offered to Arsenal in January by his agent.
I have no idea. That's our answer. So I think Eddie's got it right there. He doesn't know. I don't know. Here's what I do know. He's a superstar player. He's under contract here. And by the way, he's not the only player we have that other clubs would covet. So I think if we get in a situation where people aren't trying to muck about and sow some chaos into the marketplace in order to dislodge our players, then we got a bigger problem. Sandro's wonderful. I see him with smiles on every day I see him. I believe he's happy here, and we're certainly happy with him.
If you were to have a conversation, Simon, with the likes of Tonali's agent, and you're hearing things like, we'll evaluate, we'll decide what to do in the summer. Is that all fair comment at this particular stage in the season? He wants to lead the club to the Champions League with Newcastle. In other words, he's going to give his all, but at the end of the season, we're going to have to reevaluate things.
Well, I would be saying to you, you've got a contract that looks like you're staying with us till 2029, so shut your face and pack it in. I'd also want to be answering a question a little bit more comprehensively about who was offering who to whom, because it's not a case of you don't know. The agent seemed to be indicating that Newcastle, or some permutation or guise of Newcastle, was offering a player to Arsenal. Now, if I'm the chief executive of that business, I would know that, wouldn't I? I wouldn't say I didn't know, because I'm damn sure it wasn't Eddie Howe offering it to him, and I'm pretty sure if it's not the chief executive, who could it possibly be? Now, the agent might be offering the player to Arsenal, and that's fine. You can't,
that was it. That was what was being
but it's not his gift.
Alleged.
That's not his gift. It's not the agent can't offer anybody to anybody. His registration with Newcastle. So Newcastle look like they've got him under contract until 2029. So it's 2026. So why would an agent feel that he has one single scintilla of a mandate to offer him a cup of coffee, let alone to another football club?
But you do have to have sympathy, though, with Eddie, don't you, and the supporters, because one by one they cherry-pick these players. Isak was obviously the player last year. We all know Tonali. Bruno will be the next one. You need to do well. You need to secure Champions League football. Otherwise, one by one, you lose these players, and then it's only going to cost you even more money to bring the next generation in.
Well, he didn't lose him. He got 125 million quid for him. Well, what they had to do with that money is deploy it well. They had to deploy it well, and it doesn't appear that at this moment in time they've deployed it as well as you would like to think they would have done.
I might put it out there actually as we hit 12:30. Newcastle fans, where are you at with Eddie? Where are you at with where the club is right now? And even Sandro Tonali, where are you at with that? 03717 223344. Newcastle United, a third successive defeat and a run of 1 win in 8. I'm sure you've got a thought or two on that.
Dave from Sutton says, City goal should have stood. I hate how ex-refs say rules are rules, ruining the game. VAR can bore off. Charlie from Derby, thank God it was the third goal and not the second, because City would have lost 2 points. Another one here saying, the ref has to take the emotion out of it and disallow the goal. Isn't football all about emotion? Without emotion, what would the point be in anybody watching at all? And so on and so on and so on. So many people are furious with it all. And maybe our next caller, I'm not sure, about to find out, because Neil Warnock has called up. Morning, Neil.
Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, lads. Yeah, I had to do that, yeah.
Go, come on then, what did you make of it?
Well, the thing is, I go back to when I was a young kid, me. My dad refereed, he was a top referee, a Class 1 one, but he would never get to the top because he didn't sell enough raffle tickets for him and these dinners and things. he just refereed how he should do, but
Well, was anyone happy with Ryan Cherki's goal being disallowed for Man City? Well, former Premier League referee Chris Foy has told us the VAR was right to send Craig Pawson to the monitor.
You can't put emotion in this. It's about refereeing a football match and applying the laws of the game. Now, that might sound really boring, but he has to do his job.
Will City keep the title race alive with that 2-1 comeback win at Anfield? And Pep has called for common sense over that VAR review that disallowed Cherki's third and also saw Szoboszlai sent off.
The goal that should be allowed, because at the end, listen, nothing changed. 3-1. Szoboszlai can play next game.
Well, Szoboszlai will miss Liverpool's trip to Sunderland live on TalkSport on Wednesday night. Elsewhere, we understand Newcastle's Sandro Tonali would be keen to head back to Italy. Man United, City and Arsenal are all monitoring his availability. Juve are also interested. In the T20 World Cup, Scotland have started with a convincing 73-run win over Italy, and the Seattle Seahawks dominated the New England Patriots in a one-sided Super Bowl 60. TalkSport's NFL commentator is Will Gavin.
30 yards, and this is the play that this game truly deserves.
Loads more, as always, on the TalkSport USA YouTube channel.
Whole bunch of Newcastle fans calling in this lunch. I'm going to try and get to some of your calls before we go at 1 o'clock. I'm trying to squeeze a gallon into a pint pot as usual. But we can't go today without talking about boxing. And unfortunately, it's not in a good way. Nick Ball's homecoming weekend was spoiled by a fighter called Brandon Figueroa. Nick Ball lost his WBA featherweight title belt after being stopped in the 12th round by Brandon Figueroa. Sadly for Nick, in front of his passionate home supporters in Liverpool. Disappointing to say the least of it, although well done Figueroa. He won and won deservedly, I think. Let's hear from top boxing promoter Frank Warren, who I think is on his way back from Liverpool. Frank, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim.
Good to speak to you, Frank. I mean, it's a shame, but we're talking about a rebuilding process now for Nick Ball, are we, Frank?
Yeah. I mean, he's still a young man, and it was a keenly fought contest. He just stopped using his jab during the fight. When he was throwing his jab, he was doing very well, but he stopped using it, and unfortunately, that was the keys for it all. And you can't say nothing away from Figueroa. He's a two-time world champion at two different weights. And, he came there and he wasn't fazed, and it was a good fight. And the courage that Nick showed was unbelievable. I've never seen a fighter who's been normally when a fighter gets caught and he goes face down, they don't get up. They never beat the count, and he got up. I don't know how he done it. But he's a battler. He's one of my favourite fighters, and I will make sure if he carries on, which when I spoke to him, he said he will do. I'll make sure that I deliver to him and give him the opportunity to fight for a world title again. He's good enough to do it. He's one of the elite fighters in that division, and it's just that's boxing. These things
boxing.
happen.
I mean, he'll come back, Simon, but obviously it's not the outcome that he wanted.
No, but I mean, he fought a very good fighter. You can't take anything away from Figueroa. They went into the 12th round. How were you having it, Frank, at that point? Did you have Nick just marching ahead? Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
I thought it was a close fight. I thought, I'll be very honest, I thought Figueroa was just in front, but it was a very close fight.
Frank, I mean, ugly scenes at the end. Beer, objects thrown towards the ring, but some member of Ball's team were unhappy about the manner of Figueroa's celebrations. While Ball was recovering, one member of Ball's team seemingly kicked out at Figueroa's team. It got a bit unseemly, didn't it?
It did, and it's not acceptable behaviour. Obviously, when someone's having oxygen given to him in the ring, I mean, if I was in the ring, I would have been saying and my fighter had won. I'd say, hold on, let's get him to recover first before you celebrate. But they got carried away with it. But that still doesn't excuse, I should say, the scenes that happen afterwards. It's just not acceptable.
I mean, Figueroa apologised for the celebrations, Simon.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that
I don't think there was any malice in it. People's emotions get carried away with themselves, and the circumstances what it is. I don't think it needs to discredit the whole circumstance. This is not Alan Middleton fighting Marvin Hagler back in 1980. Can I just ask you a slightly sweeping question, Frank, which I don't think you're going to like very much, but I'm going to ask you either which way.
Go on, then.
Oops. The opponents that Nick's been in against, in Ronnie Rios and TJ Dahoney and Sam Goodman, and the preparation that those guys will bring him for an elite fighter like Figueroa. In his performances against Ray Vargas and Ray Ford, that are world-level operators at the top of their game, we saw Nick Ball at a real high level. I've got a sneaking suspicion that by fighting lesser opponents, it might not have given him the edge that he needed to fight Figueroa. Shoot me down in flames.
No, look, I don't agree with that. You see him in. He should have. The opponent should talk about that. Was given a draw on the 5v. Was given a draw on in a fight that everybody thought he won the fight. I mean, everybody. And then the second one, he won the world title. So he should have been unified champion.
I'm agreeing with you there. I think he beat Ray Vargas all day.
What I'm coming to. But you can't keep, they're not machines. They can't be fighting, having tough fights all the time. Otherwise, you're just going to burn yourself out. And the opponents he fought were decent fighters. That's what we do in boxing. The guys go and they'll have a win, and then they'll fight somebody in the top 10, and that's where you are. But you can't all the time be fighting a Figueroa or Ray Ford every day. Otherwise, you're going to have no career. It doesn't last. It doesn't work out like that.
Frank, well, we have you. Reports last night, Fabio Wardley's team reportedly held talks about potential WBO World Heavyweight title defence against Daniel Dubois. So what's that? That's your fighter against your fighter.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was out of action. I didn't even get to the show on Saturday. So I'm trying to catch up with George, my son, who's been talking with them, and we'll see where we go with it. But I love that fight. I've said that to you before. If that could be made, I think it's a brilliant fight.
I agree with Frank, don't you, Simon?
I think it's a great fight. I'm not sure I think it's a very dangerous fight for Daniel Dubois, who's on the back of a rebuild a little bit, to go in against the Fabio Wardley that every single fight besides Justice Huna has talked him down, and he's a legitimate world champion. So I think it's an incredibly risky one for Daniel on the back of a defeat, but a hell of a fight. Someone gets knocked out in that fight, no doubt.
Frank, get back safely from Liverpool. Thank you so much for joining us. Frank Warren with us this Monday lunchtime. Many Newcastle fans with us as well, calling in big numbers. We were talking about Newcastle losing at home at the weekend to Brentford. For Newcastle's a third successive defeat and a run of 1 win in 8 games. So it's not going to plan for Newcastle. It's not going to plan for Eddie Howe. Is the tide turning at St James's Park? Should Eddie be afforded an off-season, if you like, if that's what this season turns into? Many Newcastle fans giving us a call. Here's Dave, big Newcastle fan. Dave, what do you want to say on this?
Hi, guys, all right?
Good, thank you.
I think we're in a catch-22 situation at the moment. Eddie's been far too loyal for his the guys that are in on the pitch. We've got some young kids there that are cracking young kids. Sean Neve hasn't had a chance. You brought a kid called Murphy on once. I could use funny language, but Bruno, the weekend, 75 minutes, he was blown, right? And he was a waste of space. So you're playing with 10 men then, So bring another number on, at least to run at that defence.
Right.
A striker, midfielder, whatever. He's got his favourites, unfortunately. I love Eddie to bits. I absolutely love him to bits, like 99% of our thing. But it's getting a bit vitriolic now. It's getting a bit naughty. People are infighting within the crowd. I mean, I've been good for 40-odd years. I've got a season ticket I've had for 35 years.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I know a little bit about football. Not
Sure.
like a Sunderland fan, but carry on.
Okay, thanks for that. A little barb about Sunderland fans, Dave. Thank you. Andy's a big Newcastle fan. Andy, what do you think from this point onwards? Does it get better for Eddie? It's going to have to.
Hi, lads.
Hi, Andy. Good afternoon.
Hi, Andy.
What do you want to tell us?
I think Eddie's problem is he's overperformed with what he's got, but he's in danger of losing the crowd. Like, I think things are starting to turn. I go home and away with my boy, and there's murmurs in there now. And I think if he loses that home game against Sunderland, he's going to have nowhere to hide. And it's the way we're playing at the minute. It's looking like we might. We've been poor all season. We've had the odd flash of brilliance and really fight against City at home and Liverpool at home, but we've been poor. The games we've had won, we've been lucky. We're not playing well, and it's worrying.
It's worrying, and it almost pains you to say it, doesn't it, Andy? Because you all love Eddie at the best of times.
Well, he's brought us our best days in my lifetime, but I don't know how much longer it can go on. It's getting a bit sour now. I don't think it's just Eddie. It feels like the Saudis have abandoned us, really. The project that they keep talking about.
Andy,
no further forward.
Andy, just listening to you, obviously the passionate crowd that you have, and you don't. That's the last thing you want to lose. What do you feel about the new signings, the acquisitions, at Isak being sold? Has the money been spent wisely?
On paper, it might have looked like, but on the pitch, it looks awful. Wilson looks like he's about a 55-year-old granddad who can't run around that pitch. Jacob Murphy was shouting at him last week on the Brentford goal, the Brentford second goal, I think it was, when he was closing down the keeper and he turned around to the rest of the team to say where he's at. I wish I couldn't even get up the halfway line.
Oh, it doesn't sound good. Andy, listen, thanks for the call. Simon, did you hear him say that we feel a bit abandoned by the Saudi ownership? I mean, I find that hard to believe because they were rejoicing with it when they went in. And it's not as if the ownership has changed course in any way, is it?
No, I mean, I don't know what they mean by abandoned. They have to explain themselves to that extent. Obviously, the team's performance is not to their satisfaction, but then to extrapolate it to being abandoned, yeah, I mean, okay, in the summer they only really spent what they brought in from Isak, but they are governed by PSR. My argument with the Saudis are, if I indeed have one, is got to build a new stadium. Yeah. Build them a new stadium. That's the only way you're going to get out from underneath. You build a new stadium.
Doesn't happen overnight.
Ultimately, no, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But the blueprint to do it. First of all, the only thing that stops people from building new stadiums is planning permission and money. They don't have any problems with money, and they won't have any problems with planning permission in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So they'll get what they want. So
I think they're talking about adding 10,000 seats to it.
Yeah.
But the same guy, Mr. Hopkinson, the chief exec, David Hopkinson, was saying to us, by 2030, they're looking to have won something significant. So you're looking at less than 5 years now to have won either the Champions League or the Premier League or both.
Yeah. Or the FA Cup.
Now, the fans are hearing this and they're thinking, well, that sounds all right. But how are you going to deliver it?
But that's his job. He's got to say that. He's got to say certain things like, well, we are looking toward being successful. I think he actually said, we're looking forward to having significant success. Significant success is all relative, isn't it? It could be qualifying for the Champions League every season for the next 4 seasons. But the idea that they can, I don't want to be a miserable sod. I don't know how they can. How can they? They cannot go pound for pound and toe to toe to the guys that can. And at the end of the day, with a few notable exceptions, i.e. one, there's only one team that didn't impart by the Premier League, and that was Leicester. Every other team from Blackburn upwards had the most money in the room or a significant part of the opportunity to be in the top 3 sides as far as budgets concerned for players or acquiring the best players. If you're going to do that as Newcastle, how are you going to do it buying Anthony Elanga? How are you going to do it buying the centre-forward that they bought and the one that they lost? They lost Isak, they brought in another centre-forward. Put aside the price tag on him, he's not as good as Isak. How are you going to build a side that's going to beat Man City, that's going to beat Liverpool, that's going to beat Arsenal if you can't go toe-to-toe with
So
them?
you're telling me, Simon, basically no other manager other than Eddie Howe could do anything better than Eddie under these current restraints?
Well, I mean, look,
I think Eddie's done well.
I think he's done well. Yeah. But there might be a point also where his voice becomes less effective and a new voice comes in and gets another 10% out of them. And that another 10% might be Newcastle start finishing 8th in the league and they might get him up to 6th. But is it any new voice going to come in and get them to win the Premier League?
You don't want it to get toxic as it did in the Bruce years.
Well, he doesn't merit that, does he?
No.
It went toxic with Bruce because Bruce was employed by Mike Ashley. If these Newcastle fans are going to turn on the Saudi owners, then they're loons because they've got no justification for it.
Well, we heard there from one of the callers that there's a degree of unrest.
Seems to be
within the
they're
crowd.
kind of wrestling with that, but let's hope that they understand the bigger picture.
They want progress. Want to win something, like they did. The famous day that they won the Carabao Cup, Simon. I don't know if I told you about that.
Yeah.
It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, and Martin Keown live in TalkSport with Selco, where the trade goes.
These players sometimes have got too much of it. They live in an environment where they're constantly told how wonderful they are. They're constantly provided for and supported, and you have to do that because it's a difficult game at times to play at elite levels. And don't put all the rewards to one side. But unless you start confronting people with their shortcomings as well as their positives, you will not build character, you will not build resilience, you will not build leaders, and you will not build people that actually make a team.
But Van Dijk says, Simon, when you're getting bullied after a disappointing performance or receiving bad criticism, it's hard for the younger stars to ignore.
But
Jim,
you dish it out, to be fair to you. You can dish it out.
We're talking about former.
Do you ever?
With respect, we're not talking about Simon here. We're talking about former players.
Do you ever think?
Could I speak on
or
that?
should a pundit ever think for a moment? I wonder if that kid. I wonder if that will affect him. What I've just said.
Depends what's being said about them. If you turn around and say that a 19-year-old kid is absolutely useless and thick and ugly, then you're getting into. If you say that's a terrible performance, he's got to get a bit more about him.
Hello and welcome to TalkSport Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Leicester City fans, you probably were hoping it wouldn't mention you, but we have to mention you, I'm afraid, before we go today. I mean, it wasn't all bad, was it? Just 10 years ago, we were about to witness the Premier League's most remarkable story. Leicester had qualified for the Champions League. They were about to become Premier League champions. You remember this?
It's amazing, amazing. And also, hey, man, we are in Champions League. We are in Champions League, man.
That was my next
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on. You forget, you speak about blah, 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 but we are in Champions League.
That's what my next
Come
question.
on, man.
How big an achievement for you?
Oh,
We
it's
can see what it means to you.
fantastic, fantastic, terrific. Well done to everybody. The owners, the fans, to the players, the staff, everybody involved. Also Anthony here. But it's a great achievement, unbelievable. And now we go straight away to try to win the title.
Three.
Yes, man.
We've asked you all.
Only this remain. Only this. I know Pochettino is Mauricio. Keep calm.
Arsenal.
How could you not love Claudio Ranieri? And of course they did. Days after that, they went on and they secured the Premier League title. It was an incredible story. What a change, isn't it? Towards the end of last week, Leicester City docked 6 points by the EFL for breaching financial rules for the 23-24 season. The deduction was applied immediately, took them from 17th to 20th in the Championship. They then go out at the weekend, play Birmingham, lose to Birmingham. They're now 21st. They're out of the relegation zone, but only on goal difference. I mean, Simon, it's a sorry state of affairs now, isn't it, at Leicester City?
Yeah, well, it's their own making. They managed to find themselves in a Bermuda Triangle of consequences where they didn't feel they were obligated to observe any kind of guidance. They got out of being sanctioned by the Premier League in the season they got relegated. They got out of being sanctioned by the EFL and refused to cooperate with the EFL in providing them with budgets because they knew they were going to breach EFL didn't have to comply with it, and they got out on technicalities. And well done to Nick DeMarco for achieving that. But it's come home to roost now. So they decided to ignore the gateway obligations that they have upon themselves to meet the compliances, whether they'll allow them or not. They've got an owner now, the son of the original hero that bought the club and catapulted them into the position that they're in, who I'm not entirely sure knows what he's doing.
You're not?
No, I don't. I'm not sure it's right for an owner. Maybe it is for him to talk about the style of play. We once were a counter-attacking side. We need to get back to that. No, you once were a winning side. You need to get back to that. And you need to employ managers that can get you past that situation and into a different one. And they spent a lot of time trying to get Marty Cifuentes, didn't they? There was all that rancor about him leaving Queen's Park Rangers, and he hasn't done a great job. And perhaps he hasn't been afforded the opportunity to do one. But he takes it upon himself. I mean, I don't think Leicester will get relegated because they're in a forced position. They wouldn't be above the relegation zone if they hadn't had 6 points taken away from them.
Lost the last 3 games, though.
Yeah, it's not good times for them. It's not good times. It'd be interesting to see how they're going to put in there. But I think Blackburn have got their own troubles, haven't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, the owner's relatively confident about the outcome. With this squad, it should not be the outcome that we're relegated again.
No, it's a disaster, isn't it? If you go down to League One, as other clubs like Sunderland and Sheffield United have seen, it's not a gimme, and Ipswich, it's not a gimme that you come back up again and you find yourself languishing down there with a fabulous stadium like the King Power Stadium, sitting in League One. Now you'll be a big fish in a small pond, but that still has its own challenges. So they've got to get themselves together. And you look at it, and I don't mean to be mean-spirited, but they deserve it. They tap danced their way through all the obligations, and they got away with it. And they got away with it because of some clever legal frameworking and some badly drafted rules that enabled them to exploit the opportunity, which means when they got relegated from the Premier League, they said, we're not under the EFL's guidance. We didn't have to provide you with our budgeting. And when they got promoted from the EFL, they said they weren't under the EFL's guidance for breaching their governance. They were in the Premier League now. And eventually, they've been served up. And they've got their 6 point sanction.
I mean, Martin, you would think, okay, you're flirting with relegation. Make sure you don't drop down. But the owner, Top, is saying, certainly a few days before the 6 point deduction was given to them, I'm sure that we still have a chance to get back in this table to the playoffs at least.
Well, that's not going to happen now, is it? So, they're in a relegation battle. There's no doubt. They play they play Southampton next. Well, 2 games against Southampton, actually play them in the FA Cup. So they've got to start finding results. I see Lascelles has gone in there, centre half, a bit more experience. They've still got sprinklings of good players, Jim. They should be performing much better than they are. They've got to turn it around. Whether they've sacked the manager just at the wrong time, probably. Certainly hasn't picked up since he's been gone. So it's a big club that's in a bit of trouble.
It is indeed, and I hope they get out of it. It was a
Yeah,
wonderful. They gave us
did.
a wonderful story, didn't they? A wonderful story.
They did.
And I do hope they give us a story that sees them avoid the drop here.
Well,
They've got the players to get out of it.
Yeah.
The two things are not related. They gave us a wonderful story. They're in a position because they put themselves here. You know, they challenged the orthodoxy, and all of the big clubs were arrogant and dismissed them and played the same way against them for the entire season. Everybody knew what they were going to do. Danny Drinkwater was going to get on the ball, look up and bang it behind centre defenders, and Jamie Vardy was going to run onto it. And that's what they did all season. And they won the league, and it was fabulous. And obviously they went into the Champions League, and they did, you know, they had a little tilt
Won
there.
the FA Cup as
But
well.
they now are where they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you know, you want these stories, like you want Hearts to
You
win
do.
the Scottish Premier
Yeah.
League, so it breaks up the arrogance of the old firm.
Yeah, come on, the Foxes. Be crafty like any old fox and get out of that situation you're in. Martin Keown, Arsenal Invincible, I thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good day.
Simon, manana at
Indeed.
10. Monday lunchtime, folks, we're coming up to 1 o'clock.
Cameron, everything that we saw from Ruben Amorim, just to demonstrate the difference that Carrick has had. Like Manchester United.